Chapter 1207. Xiling's expression was very ugly. Seeing this, Longao's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that the nine nether space was not simple. It could make Xiling so nervous. Bai Ling shrugged helplessly and smiled. "Brother Long, be careful." He nodded. After Xiling and Bai Ling disappeared, Longao and Bai Ling communicated with each other using their spiritual senses. Even Long Fu and Xiling could not hear them. "Bai Ling, what's going on?" Longao's intuition told him that this was not simple. "Brother Long, the nine nether space was forcefully created by a supreme expert. We don't know if this supreme expert has already fallen, but the only thing we can confirm is that the nine nether clan is this supreme expert's descendant. So that's how it is." Longao was very clear that with Bai Ling and Xiling's super strength, the person who could make Bai Ling call this super expert was definitely not simple. As if she could guess Longao's thoughts, Bai Ling continued. "This super expert's strength is above Tian Dao." F*ck hearing Bai Ling's words, Longao was shocked. Of course, he knew what it meant to be above Tian Dao. Longao finally understood why Xiling was so nervous. It turned out that the other party was a super expert who had reached the peak of martial arts. If that was the case, then the Tianwu continent was definitely not simple. Not to mention now, just in the past, there were probably more than 2 super experts who had reached the peak of martial arts. Longao firmly believed that the super expert who had reached the peak of martial arts in the nine nether space had fallen. Otherwise, there was one person who would be more nervous than him, and that was Tian Dao. Even if this super expert had fallen, as his descendant, he believed that they must have a strong foundation. If that was the case, he really had to be careful. "Brother Long, forgive me for being blunt." "Speak." "Big Brother Long, if I'm not mistaken, the treasure that Long Ming mentioned just now doesn't come from the Nine Abyss Netherworld Tiger clan." What did that mean? Longao's heart skipped a beat. He didn't know what Bai Ling meant. Longao wouldn't doubt Bai Ling's words, but he wouldn't doubt his brother either. He firmly believed that Long Ming wouldn't lie to him. "Bai Ling, what's going on?" "Big Brother Long, I believe that Long Ming will not lie to you. The problem seems to be Long Ming's father." How could Longao not understand what Bai Ling meant? In other words, it was not Bai Ling who was lying, but Bai Ling's father. "If I'm not mistaken, the treasure Long Ming is looking for is the treasure left behind by this super expert." He nodded. If that was the case, things would be very troublesome. Longao didn't hide this matter from Long Ming. He told him everything that Bai Ling had said just now. After listening, Long Ming thought for a long time and said with his spiritual consciousness, "Big brother, I know what you mean. No matter whether this treasure belongs to the Nine Abyss Netherworld Tiger clan or not, it's my father's last wish." So, Long Ming didn't continue, but the meaning in his words was very clear. "Long Ming, I know what to do." Longao didn't continue. No matter what decision Long Ming made, he knew that as Long Ming's brother, he had to support him no matter what. Looking at the huge mountain in front of him, Longao chose to hide for the time being. There were many disciples of the Nine Abyss clan, and all of them were dressed in black. Longao's method was very simple. It was to let the disciples of the Nine Netherbird clan enter the Nine Netherbird clan. This was the safest way. With Longao's current strength, it was a piece of cake for him to deal with a disciple of the Nine Abyss clan. Dressed in black, Longao roughly knew about the Nine Abyss clan through the soul search. The Nine Netherworld old ancestor of the Nine Netherworld clan was a powerful Nirvana realm martial artist. However, under normal circumstances, the Nine Netherworld old ancestor would not appear casually. Hence, even the disciples of the Nine Netherworld clan rarely saw the clan leader. As for the Nine Abyss clan, it was usually ruled by 10 elders. The 10 elders of the Nine Abyss clan were divided in a strange way. They didn't have names, only code names, and were very simple. The 10 elders were the Great Elder, the Second Elder, the Third Elder, the Fourth Elder, the Fifth Elder, the Sixth Elder, the Seventh Elder, the Eighth Elder, the Ninth Elder, and the 10th Elder. As the saying went, there were 5 realms of the divine path and 4 supreme realms. Longao was almost certain that the Great Elder's cultivation had reached the Emperor God realm. The four supreme realms were the Divine King, Divine Emperor, Divine Venerable, and Emperor God realm. The Nine Abyss Peak was the main peak. It was very large and was divided into 10 sections. Each elder occupied a section. The disciples of the Nine Abyss clan that Longao had killed belonged to the 10th Elder's sect. They were divided into the most remote sections, which was also very convenient for Longao. Wait, little Wu, do you have any respect for me? You've been gone for so long. Quickly take it out. Longao was stopped by the two black-clothed men. After the soul search, little Wu's everything was known to him. The person called little Wu was a piece of trash after all. He was still a postnatal realm warrior. For the Nine Abyss clan, he was simply in existence at the bottom. It was also because of this that little Wu was bullied by everyone. No matter where he went, little Wu was forced to drink outside by the two men in front of him. Unexpectedly, he was killed by him. If it was the previous Longao, he would have killed the two men long ago. But now, in order to hide his identity, he could only endure for the time being. Longao used his powerful strength to slightly change his appearance. Sorry, I was beaten up just now, so I didn't get the wine. F***ck, you're asking for a beating. Without saying a word, the two men began to beat him up. They originally wanted to settle things peacefully, but the current little Wu was no longer the little Wu of before. He was the Longao who had just stepped into the Nine Abyss clan. Longao looked coldly at the two men who had already closed in on him. Insignificant Xiantian realm warriors were not worth mentioning in his eyes. Since he had already stepped into the Nine Abyss Peak, Longao was very clear that his identity could not be revealed. Otherwise, he would be in great trouble. That was exactly the case. Longao's body did not move. Just the aura that was emitted from his body directly drowned the two men. From the beginning to the end, the two men did not know what was going on. They did not even have time to scream before they were killed by the aura. According to the information left by little Wu, Longao first found the so-called residence. It was very shabby, but very secluded. Because it was close to the garbage dump, few people would come here under normal circumstances. This was also convenient for Longao. Longao did not dislike the garbage dump and quietly lived there just like that. Author's note: tomorrow is the 1st of January, the start of the new year. Little Nine's total update volume this month doesn't seem to be enough, but next month, Little Nine will work even harder and strive for more updates. Tomorrow is the 1st of January, and I guarantee that there will be at least 10 chapters. Chapter 1208. Longao stayed in the Nine Netherbird clan for 10 days. He didn't make a move because he wanted to make sure nothing went wrong. As dusk approached, a gust of wind blew. Longao's body quietly left. The Nine Netherworld Peak was dark everywhere. Nine Netherworld Peak, Back Mountain. Big brother, according to the information my father left me, my blood is the only way to open the secret realm. Longao was surprised when he heard Longming's words. According to Bai Ling, the treasure in the Nine Netherbird clan didn't belong to the Nine Netherworld Earth Tiger clan, but was left behind by a super expert of the Nine Netherworld clan. If that was the case, how could Longming's blood open the secret realm? What was going on here? Longao did not ask, because he knew very well that even Longming did not know about this matter, so asking would be pointless. Next, Longming formed a strange pattern with his blood. Just as Longming had said, the blood made a sizzling sound as it came into contact with the air. Immediately after, the entire space began to tremble. Even the entire Nine Netherworld Peak began to tremble violently, as if a volcano was erupting or an earthquake was occurring. Longao's face was also very ugly. From the beginning to the end, Longao didn't know that Longming's opening of the secret realm would cause such a huge commotion. It would be troublesome if the experts of the Nine Netherbird clan were attracted. However, it didn't take long before a stone door appeared out of thin air. Big brother, let's go in. Longao did not hesitate in the slightest. With a stride, he had already rushed into the stone door, and the spatial stone door also disappeared. A few minutes later, 11 figures appeared at the same time. All of them were dressed in black, and they were all shocked because the spatial fluctuations in the surroundings hadn't dissipated. Patriarch, someone has opened the secret realm. Longao nodded. The patriarch of the 9 Netherworld clan was also shocked because he knew better than anyone what it meant to open the secret realm. As the descendant of a super expert, they had guarded the secret realm for so many years, but no one had been able to open it. Who was it? It would be a lie to say that they didn't want such a treasure. The 9 Nether old ancestor wanted to enter the 9 Nether secret realm more than once, but he couldn't open it. Our speed has slowed down. Hearing the patriarch's words, the 10 elders didn't dare to speak and stood respectfully to the side. The 10 of them knew very well that the 9 Serenity's mystery realm was the biggest thorn in the clan leader's heart. If they offended the clan leader, they wouldn't even know how they died. The 10 of you, guard this place for me. No matter who it is, as long as they come out of the secret realm, take them down. The great elder was the only one who dared to speak. The first elder took a step forward and said seriously, Clan leader, this man is able to open the Jiu mystery realm. I believe he is related to the Jiu mystery realm. He is not weak. If he fights back, what should we do? The Netherworld Patriarch was well aware of the first elder's intentions. This matter is very strange, so this person must not die. As long as you delay him, I have my ways. Since the Patriarch had already said so, how could the 10 of them dare to continue speaking nonsense? After the Netherworld Patriarch left, the 10 elders looked at each other. They could see the helplessness and shock in each other's eyes. They had no choice but to guard the surrounding space. Entering the stone gate, before waiting for Longao to react, he had already arrived at a dark palace lobby. The layout of the hall was simple, except for a gigantic water tank in the middle of the hall. It was filled with a grayish-black liquid. Gulp, 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 gulp. The grayish-black liquid in the water tank was bubbling continuously. It was like boiling water, with black bubbles popping out of it continuously. It was a creepy sight. Longao approached slowly. The closer he got, the more the creepy aura corroded him. About a meter or so, Longao came to a halt. He realized that even if he did not move forward, a mysterious aura was pulling him forward. If not for the fact that he had experienced it himself, he would have found it hard to believe. Longao was almost certain that the aura pulling him forward was the doing of the water tank in front of him. 9 Serenity's mystery realm. If not for Bai Ling's reminder, Longao might not have thought too much about it. But after all, this was a secret left behind by the old master of the 9 Serenity's race. Just thinking about it made him realize what kind of existence it was. The more this was the case, the more careful Longao became. He was on full alert. He did not dare to get any closer. Longao could clearly sense that the grayish-black liquid in the water tank was extremely strong. If anything were to happen to it, it would be bad for both of them. As the saying went, curiosity killed the cat. Longao knew this well. That was why he suppressed his curiosity. He did not want to be killed by his own curiosity. Longao took 10 steps back and started looking around the hall. There were only simple decorations in the hall. However, there were 2 gigantic diagrams on the walls. Due to the dim lighting, even Longao could not make out what the diagrams were. Longao was very surprised, because according to his strength, not to mention under this kind of dim light, even if it was night, it would be very easy to see clearly, but now? It seemed that the hall was a little strange. Longao did not continue to approach the water tank. Instead, he slowly walked towards the wall on the left. Step by step, it could be said that he was taking every step carefully. Because no one knew what was strange about the hall, it was better to be careful. Longao did not get too close to the wall. He stopped when he was 1 meter away. It was because of this distance that he could barely make out the diagrams on the wall. Longao could not understand them at all. But at this moment, Long Ming's voice sounded. Big brother, I can understand the diagrams. This is a powerful martial technique. It seems that only our 9 Serenity's Netherworld tiger race can cultivate it. I see. The diagrams on the wall made Longao even more curious. All of this seemed like a chess game. He and Long Ming were chess pieces. It was not up to them to decide how to move. However, a powerful martial technique was not a bad thing. Longao began to communicate with it, and reflected the diagrams to Long Ming in the dragon seal space. From the beginning to the end, Longao did not let Long Ming appear. The reason was very simple. This hall was too strange. He did not know what was going on with Long Ming. Without full confidence, he would not let Long Ming take this risk. After a full hour, Longao finally reflected the martial technique on the wall to Long Ming. However, Longao did not stop at all. He walked towards the other wall. If this wall was a martial technique, then the wall on the other side was also something good. P.S. I wish everyone a happy new year in advance. Tomorrow is the 1st. Little 9 will work harder to update next month. I hope everyone will give your monthly and recommendation tickets to Little 9. If you have the ability, you can give some tips and strive to be the alliance leader or grandmaster. At least Little 9 will have some face. Chapter 1209. Long Ming was pleasantly surprised. Big brother, I can sense the power of this martial technique. Longao wasn't surprised at all. This was the 9 Serenity's secret realm, a secret left behind by an expert at the peak of the martial path. If there was no accident, the martial technique that Long Ming had just obtained must have something to do with this expert. In fact, this martial technique might even belong to this person. Longao became more and more curious about the relationship between Long Ming and this expert. Big brother, if I can comprehend this martial technique, even if it's just a beginner, I believe I can advance to the divine path. It was impossible to say that he wasn't happy. Longao didn't say anything, but carefully walked toward the stone wall in front of him. As for Long Ming, with Longao's breakthrough, and with the help of Long Ming and Long Chang, the 2 spiritual beasts had both advanced to the 9th heaven demigod realm. They were only one step away from officially becoming divine beasts. The difference between a demigod beast and a divine beast was too great. There was only one picture on the huge wall. Even Longao could understand it. On the picture, a pool of black liquid was flowing quietly. It was clearly a picture, but Longao had a feeling that the black liquid on the picture was flowing slowly. It was a little inconceivable. Master, the master of the 9 Serenity's secret realm, was a powerful martial artist, and his attainments in divine arts were very powerful. Long Fu, what did you sense? There were some things that Longao almost didn't want to ask Long Fu. Longao didn't want to be anyone's chess piece, and he didn't want to be anyone's substitute or sacrifice, including Long Fu. Although Long Fu didn't say it clearly, Longao could clearly sense that Long Fu really meant this. Longao was even more clear that if there came a day when he no longer had any use value, he believed that the first person to dump him would be Long Fu. Master, the master of the 9 Serenity's secret realm has fallen. Longao was not surprised at all. He had already guessed this. Otherwise, the heavenly Daos would not be the only ones in charge of the martial heaven continent. As for how the owner of the 9th nether mystery realm died, only God knew. Longao was not asking about this. Long Fu should know. Master, there are many dangers in the secret realm, but there are also opportunities. I am unable to help you. Eh? Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao was very curious. This was because Long Fu had never said that he couldn't help before the battle had even begun. He could sense that it wasn't that Long Fu didn't want to help, but that he couldn't. Without waiting for Longao to ask, Big brother Long, it's not just Long Fu. Even my sister and I are unable to help you. Bai Ling, what happened? Longao was a little surprised. He couldn't wait to ask. Big brother Long, there's something you don't know. Although this master has fallen, his aura is still there. If the 3 of us help, this place will instantly close and even collapse. So that's it. Longao was really shocked. If it really collapsed, wouldn't he die in the 9 Serenity's secret realm? Big brother Long, The picture on the stone wall in front of you was refined by this master's mystique. It doesn't have any substantial benefits, but it's very beneficial to Nirvana realm martial artists. He shrugged helplessly. Bai Ling's meaning was clear. The picture in front of him was only useful to Nirvana realm martial artists. It was useless to him. Longao did not continue to observe. He retreated to the center of the hall. The entire hall was dark. It was as if dusk was about to end and night was slowly descending. It was still the same hall. There was still a huge water tank in the center. Within the tank, the grayish-black liquid was still bubbling like boiling water. Gurgle, gurgle, Longao did not continue walking. The hall was exceptionally silent. The only sound that could be heard was the gurgle of the water tank. The entire hall was creepy and eerie. "You're finally here." Just then, an ancient voice came from all around the hall. Before Longao could react, Long Ming, who was in the dragon seal space, suddenly appeared with a confused expression. "Long Ming, come back!" Long Ming did not know what was going on as he darted towards the water tank. He was shocked. Longao did not know what was going on. However, the water tank was way too creepy. If Long Ming were to enter the water tank, who knew what would happen? Not daring to hesitate in the slightest, Longao immediately followed, preparing to pull Long Ming back. But the result? Longao had just darted out. Before he could even get close to the water tank, he was bounced back by the aura released by the water tank. "If you dare to take another step forward, I'll kill you without mercy." Standing less than 3 meters away from the water tank, Longao's face was extremely gloomy, because Long Ming had already entered the water tank and did not make the slightest splash. As for whether Long Ming was alive or dead, he had no idea. "Senior, just who are you? What are you after capturing my brother?" "Ha ha! The matters of my race have nothing to do with outsiders." "Race?" Hearing the other party's words, Longao knew who the other party was. He must be a senior of the 9 Nether Earth Tiger race. However, the water tank was way too creepy. Who knew what would happen if he were to enter? But since things had already come to this, he could only wait and see. The hall was still silent. Longao did not take another step forward. Time passed by bit. "Big brother Long, don't worry. I tried to sense it earlier on. I realized that Long Ming is receiving his inheritance." "Inheritance? What inheritance?" Hearing Bai Ling's voice, Longao was a little shocked. It was confirmed that the 9 Nether Mystery Realm was left behind by a warrior who had reached the peak of martial arts. If Long Ming was receiving his inheritance, wouldn't that mean that Longao was receiving the inheritance of a warrior who had reached the peak of martial arts? If that was the case, he could not be happier. However, at the same time, Longao was also a little curious. The other party had just said that this was a matter of their race. If that was the case and Long Ming was receiving his inheritance, did that mean that the owner of the 9 Nether Mystery Realm, the warrior who had reached the peak of martial arts, was Long Ming's ancestor? It was a little unbelievable. It seemed that the answer would be revealed after Long Ming received his inheritance. If that was the case, Longao was relieved. As long as Long Ming was fine, it was fine. As for whether he could receive the inheritance or not, it was not a problem that Longao was concerned about. If it was an ordinary person, he believed that the inheritance of a warrior who had reached the peak of martial arts would be more important than his own life. However, Longao's situation was completely different. Long Ming's safety was more important than anything else, even if the other party was the so-called peak of martial arts. "Big brother Long, since Long Ming still needs some time to receive his inheritance, why don't you take advantage of this time to explore other places? Maybe you can come across an opportunity." Chapter 12:10. He nodded. Longao didn't want to wait quietly. In the deepest part of the hall, there was a door in the left corner. Longao went around the water tank and disappeared into the door. Outside the door, there was a long corridor. 16 stone pillars were arranged on both sides of the corridor, and each stone pillar was carved with some patterns. After walking through the corridor, Longao looked at the scene in front of him and was completely stunned. He thought. When he entered the ninth secluded secret realm and entered the palace, Longao thought that there would be another palace behind the corridor, just a side hall. But what was the result? In front of him was not a side hall, but a huge forest. There were towering trees everywhere, just like the outside world. What was going on? Roar! Hearing the roars from the forest in the distance, Longao was sure that there were powerful spiritual beasts in the forest in front of him. Longao, if you want your spiritual soul to completely transform, this is the best place to cultivate. Hearing Xilin's words, Longao was delighted. In this case, Longao did not hesitate and immediately went to the forest in front of him. After a while, his body disappeared without a trace. In the huge forest, there were towering trees everywhere, covering the sky and the sun. Even the sun could not shine in. Xiling, what should I do? Longao wanted to break through the ninth heaven demigod realm as soon as possible and upgrade to the divine path realm. However, he had already tried. No matter what method he used, it was not easy to transform his spiritual soul. If he could transform his spiritual soul here, it would be best. Longao, I have told you before that your spiritual soul has not been able to transform. It is very likely that it has something to do with your desolate physique. So, if you want to transform your spiritual soul, you have to start with your desolate physique. Desolate physique? Longao was very surprised. This was because after so many years, the reason why his cultivation could increase so quickly was largely because of his desolate physique. The desolate physique could be said to be the #1 cultivation saint physique in the world. It could also be said to be the #1 trash physique in the world. Longao was very clear in his heart that if he had not met Longing, at this moment, not to mention establishing the dragon sect and becoming a ninth heaven demigod, he would probably still be the trash from Scarlet Fire Town that everyone ridiculed. Longao, I believe you are more aware of your desolate physique's condition than I am. He nodded. I just sensed that there is a spring in the depths of the forest. As long as you kill the spirit beasts, throw their souls into the spring and devour them, your soul will transform much faster. Longao almost understood what Xiling had said. In the end, the main reason that affected the transformation of his divine soul was because of his desolate physique. No matter what, as long as his divine soul could quickly transform, regardless of whether it was a mountain of daggers or a sea of flames, he had to brave it. Without wasting any more words, Longao took a big stride forward and leaped out. According to Xiling, the mysterious spring was in the depths of the forest. Even with his speed, it would take at least a few hours to reach the location of the spring. Just as Longao had guessed, there were powerful spirit beasts everywhere in the forest. He casually encountered a spirit beast of the great Emperor realm. However, Longao was not worried at all. Instead, he was pleasantly surprised. In order to transform his divine soul, he had to continuously kill spirit beasts and steal their souls. Only then could he put the souls into the mysterious spring to help his divine soul transform. That was exactly how it was. Longao did not dodge at all. He killed all the spirit beasts that he encountered. With Longao's current strength, as a ninth heaven demigod, as long as he did not encounter any divine beasts, it would be smooth sailing. However, there were too many spirit beasts in the forest. If he did not encounter any divine beasts, it was almost impossible. In just a few hours, Longao had killed thousands of spirit beasts. It had to be said that Longao had gone all out this time. Otherwise, he would not have been able to achieve such a fast speed under normal circumstances. Saber-toothed tiger, an empty god realm divine beast. Saber-toothed tiger was no different from an ordinary tiger. The only difference was that there were countless sharp spikes on the back of the saber-toothed tiger. Facing a divine beast, Longao did not choose to fight it head-on. Longao knew very well that if he could kill the divine beast and seize the divine beast's divine soul, it would be of great help to his own divine soul transformation. However, the power of a divine beast was obvious. The saber-toothed tiger was extremely fast. If Longao did not use the spatial teleportation, he would not be able to get rid of the saber-toothed tiger. In desperation, he could only use the spatial teleportation. He thought that he could get rid of the saber-toothed tiger completely, but what was the result? The saber-toothed tiger was like a plaster that could not be shaken off. No matter which direction Longao ran, he would always be locked on by the saber-toothed tiger. What was going on? Did he have to enter the dragon seal space? Longao knew that he could hide for a while, but not forever. If he hid in the dragon seal space, the longer he delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. This did not mean that he was in a hurry to transform his divine soul and break through to the Supreme Tao stage. What he was really worried about was Long Ming, who had received the inheritance. Therefore, Longao did not want to waste any time. However, it was not a good idea to continue hiding like this. In the end, Longao was still prepared to fight with the saber-toothed tiger. The reason was simple. Among the 5 realms of the Supreme Tao stage, the empty God realm was the lowest. If it was a great emperor, Longao would not even think about it. However, with his current demigod level 9 cultivation, if he were to fight with an illusionary divine beast head-on, he would have a chance of winning. The divine dragon fist smashed out fiercely and directly clashed head-on with the saber-toothed tiger. A gust of wind rose and Longao's body flew out wildly. However, he stopped abruptly in midair. The saber-toothed tiger roared crazily. It did not expect that Lin Fan would be able to injure it. In its anger, the spikes on its back grew. From the initial length of an arm, they grew to about 2 meters. It was almost impossible for Lin Fan to fight in close combat. Longao was also shocked. However, the punch just now had given him some confidence. It was also because of this that Longao wanted to test his own strength. He wanted to see if he could kill a divine beast as a demigod level 9 cultivation. The empty god realm was divided into 2 realms. The first realm was for those who had not gone through the god's tribulation. Such empty god realm martial artists had only transformed their divine soul and their strength was not much stronger than a demigod level 9 cultivation. However, once they had gone through the god's tribulation, their strength would undergo a drastic change. Longao could clearly sense that the saber-toothed tiger in front of him was definitely a divine beast that had gone through the god's tribulation. Otherwise, its strength would not be so strong. Longao did not even think about it as he rushed out again. Chapter 12:11. In the blink of an eye, Longao and the saber-toothed tiger fought fiercely again. A divine beast was a divine beast. Even with Longao's full attack, it was not an easy task to kill the saber-toothed tiger. Since things had come to this point, Longao did not give up. The sword aura merged with the aura of heaven and earth and suppressed fiercely. The saber-toothed tiger never thought that as a divine beast, it could not suppress the other party in terms of aura. It kept roaring. The angry roar resounded through heaven and earth. The saber-toothed tiger was furious to the extreme. Just at this moment, the saber-toothed tiger suddenly emitted a strange power that instantly shrouded Longao. He was shocked. The divine territory was the unique power of a divine beast or a divine beast. It was almost the same as the great emperor's territory. Once one's cultivation broke through to the 9th heaven demigod realm and successfully passed the god's tribulation, the territory in the body would become a divine territory. The 5 realms of the divine path. From low to high, they were empty god realm, spirit focus realm, human god realm, earth god realm, and celestial god realm. As for the divine territory, it corresponded to the 5 realms of the divine path. They were empty god divine territory, spirit focus divine territory, human god divine territory, earth god divine territory, and celestial god divine territory. The saber-toothed tiger was a void god divine beast. The power in its body had already condensed into a void god divine territory. At the beginning of the great battle, the saber-toothed tiger did not put Longao in its eyes at all. After all, 9th heaven demigod and divine Tao were 2 different concepts. The difference in strength between the two was too great. They were simply not on the same level. But the result? With the strength of a divine path, it had to use the divine territory. It was simply embarrassing. However, there was no other way. The other party's strength was far beyond its estimation. The saber-toothed tiger had no choice but to use the void god divine territory. Being shrouded by the void god divine territory, Longao did not dare to be careless. Because Longao was very clear that the divine territory and aura were completely different. It seemed that it was difficult to break the divine territory with aura alone. What should he do? Talent Dragon Roar? In the end, with no other choice, Longao could only use his innate divine ability because he really couldn't think of a way to break open the divine realm. The saber-toothed tiger thought that by using the divine territory, it could defeat the other party. But what was the result? His divine domain had also locked onto his opponent. However, it was still inferior to his innate ability, Dragon Roar. If it was a metamorphosis, it would be impossible for the Longao to lock onto the saber-toothed tiger. However, Longao had already undergone a second bloodline awakening, and the innate divine abilities he had developed were far more powerful than the void god divine realm. However, this did not mean that the innate divine ability could definitely destroy a divine realm. The saber-toothed tiger's expression changed completely. The saber-toothed tiger realized that the flow of space around it had been forcefully altered. Its body had even been locked down. It had no idea what was going on. Before the saber-toothed tiger could react, Longao's body had already disappeared. End the battle quickly. Longao was very clear in his heart that he didn't want the saber-toothed tiger to react. Taking advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, he hit it with one strike. The strength of the saber-toothed tiger was there for all to see. Longao did not dare to be careless in the slightest because he knew that if it was a normal battle, he would definitely not be able to defeat the saber-toothed tiger. Taking advantage of the saber-toothed tiger's carelessness, Longao had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The saber-toothed tiger was locked down. Longao used the god-slaying sword in his right hand and slashed out fiercely. He let out a loud roar. Longao used all the strength in his body. This strike could be said to be his strongest strike. Without any warning, the sword chi had already struck the saber-toothed tiger's body. With just Longao's strength alone, even if this little bit of power was no small matter, wanting to kill the saber-toothed tiger was not a simple matter. However, with the help of Xiling and Bailing, the saber-toothed tiger's body was split into two. Without any hesitation, Longao directly kept the saber-toothed tiger's spiritual soul into the dragon seal's space. Looking at the corpse on the ground, Longao let out a long sigh of relief. A divine beast was indeed a divine beast. If it wasn't for the second bloodline awakening and the innate divine ability, it would have been difficult for him to withstand the void god divine realm released by the saber-toothed tiger. Brother Long, don't be so reckless in the future. Nodding his head. How could Longao not know about Bailing's worries? A peak ninth heaven demigod was still unable to fight against a divine path martial artist. If it was a divine path martial artist who had not gone through the god's tribulation, Longao had full confidence that he could kill them. But no matter what, the spiritual soul of a divine beast would be of great help to his own spiritual soul transformation. Longao calculated. The spiritual soul of a divine beast was something that even 100 Spirit Emperor spiritual beasts could not compare to. Longao did not know how many spiritual souls he would need to successfully transform his spiritual soul. Longao was still unceasingly killing spirit beasts. However, he didn't continue to act recklessly this time. He had already learned a lesson from the previous incident. So, he didn't continue to kill divine beasts. The most powerful one was only a half-divine spirit beast of the 9th celestial layer. In the depths of the forest, there were gigantic black rocks all around, and behind the rocks were towering trees. In the middle of the rocks, there was a moderately sized spring water, bubbling with boiling water. Gurgle, gurgle, Longao did not go near it. The entire spring was sky blue in color. If not for Xiling's help, it would be a fool's dream to find this spring. Longao, I can't say for sure if all the spirit beasts you have killed, including the saber-toothed tiger's spiritual soul, will be able to help you transform your spiritual soul. Xiling and Bai Ling's figures appeared. The two Jianlings stared at the spring in front of them. The bubbling spring was like a pot of boiling water. Just looking at it was enough to send shivers down one's spine. Xiling, what should I do now? Since things had already come to this, Longao would not give up easily. His cultivation base had already broken through the 9th heaven demigod pinnacle state. He was just one step away from the divine path. Under normal circumstances, breaking through was easier said than done. But the spring in front of him was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Place all your spirit beasts into the spring. You will enter as well. Remember, no matter what happens, you must persevere. When the time comes, my sister and I will help you. The spring water can only be used once. It will not work a second time. Longao knew what Xiling meant. At the end of the day, he only had one chance. The more it was so, the more careful Longao was. Just as Xiling had said, no matter what, he had to give it his all and break through the final bottleneck. Nodding his head, Longao placed all his spirit beasts into the spring. Then, Longao's body entered the spring as well. With a plop, Longao's body disappeared into the spring. P.S. Due to the festival in the day, the 3rd chapter has been delivered. Still 10 chapters today. Tonight will be the night. Chapter 12:12. In front of the mysterious spring. Sister, if Brother Long doesn't succeed this time, it will be more difficult for him to transform his spiritual soul in the future. Nodding, Xiling smiled and said, Longao's talent and physique are obvious. If he can't transform his spiritual soul, it will be impossible for him to do so in the future. Sister, you must help Brother Long. She glared at her sister. Xiling said unhappily, Bai Ling, you must remember who you are. Looking at his sister's pitiful face, Xiling couldn't bear to do it. Don't worry, you and I will do it together. Hearing this, Bai Ling's face lit up. In the mysterious spring, Longao's body sank into the spring water. As soon as he entered, he immediately circulated the energy in his body and formed an air shield around him. However, the air shield that he had just set up was shattered by the spring water and disappeared without a trace. He was shocked. Longao realized that the spring water around him didn't harm him at all. After thinking for a while, he gave up resisting. The spring water didn't enter Longao's body. Instead, the spirit that was thrown into the spring water was completely refined by the spring water. A ball of liquid was tightly wrapped around him. Following Xiling's instructions, Longao stayed by the ball of liquid. He didn't give up any opportunity to cultivate. Longao knew very well that although Violet's spirit did not say it clearly, but he also knew that this mysterious spring water definitely had an extraordinary origin. To be able to refine souls and transform them into a mysterious power, just this point alone seemed to be very heaven-defying. Xiling and Bai Ling also did not have the slightest hesitation and immediately began to help Longao. They had to admit that the mysterious spring water was indeed powerful. The spirits of tens of thousands of spiritual beasts, including the saber-toothed tiger's spiritual soul, were refined by the mysterious spring water in less than 2 hours. Longao was overjoyed. He used the heavenly devouring skill and a huge black vortex appeared behind him. He swallowed all the refined energy into his body and merged it with his demigod soul. Originally, Longao only wanted to devour the energy. As for the mysterious spring water, he didn't think about it at all. But what was the result? The firmament-devouring art did not stop circulating at all. The black whirlpool crazily devoured the mysterious spring water. Its devouring speed even startled Longao. Even Longao didn't know what had happened. Why couldn't he stop circulating the firmament-devouring art? Why would the firmament-devouring art crazily devour the spring water? All of this seemed very strange. Sister, Brother Long seems to be devouring the mysterious spring water. Nodding, Xiling's expression turned serious. Even she didn't know what was going on. Stopping Bai Ling, who was about to attack, Xiling said, "You know better than me what the mysterious spring water means. Even if Longao swallows it, there will only be benefits and no harm." Staring at the mysterious spring water in front of her, Bai Ling finally nodded. The devouring speed was too fast. Longao forcefully stopped the firmament-devouring art. However, the huge black vortex behind him continued to spin wildly, continuously devouring the mysterious spring water around him. The mysterious spring water was very big. Even so, it was completely devoured by Longao in about half an hour. Now that the mysterious spring water had disappeared, there was only a huge pit left. Xiling, Bai Ling, and Longao were all dumbfounded. "Brother Long, what's wrong?" Bai Ling was a little anxious. After all, no one knew what would happen after Longao had devoured the mysterious spring water. Just as Longao was about to speak, his expression changed drastically. His entire body was covered with drops of spring water, forming a spring water chi shield. "Sister!" She waved her hand. Xiling didn't know what was going on either. However, her intuition told her that Longao would only benefit from devouring the mysterious spring water. Longao's eyes were already tightly shut. He was shrouded by the surrounding spring water, and his body also began to slowly rise into the air. Inside Longao's body, the soul power that he had just devoured surrounded Longao's demigod soul. One had to admit that Longao's demigod soul was indeed very strong. After devouring forcefully, it didn't explode due to the backlash. His divine soul had begun to transform. Longao was overjoyed. He observed that his divine soul had begun to transform slowly. At this speed, he would definitely be able to complete the transformation after entering the spring water. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't happy about breaking through from the ninth heaven demigod realm to the divine path realm. Longao knew very well that under normal circumstances, God knew how long it would take to break through from the ninth heaven demigod realm to the divine path realm. After all, he had tried countless methods before, but he still couldn't transform his divine soul. But now, from beginning to end, only a few minutes had passed and his divine soul had already transformed. At this speed, it would take at most 2 hours for his demigod soul to transform into a divine soul. Not only Longao, but the transformation process wouldn't take much time for others as well. However, it was extremely difficult to transform from the demigod soul to the divine soul. Many people were stuck at this juncture and couldn't transform for the rest of their lives. "His divine soul has begun to transform." Bai Ling nodded in surprise. However, no one could tell whether Longao's devouring of the mysterious spring water was a good or bad thing. It was because of this that Bai Ling was very worried. However, Longao's divine soul had transformed and it was a good thing. In this case, as long as Longao triggered the god's test and successfully passed it, he could officially become an empty god. The 5 divine path realms, from the lowest to the highest, were the empty god realm, the spirit focus realm, the human god realm, the earth god realm, and the heaven god realm. However, even if his divine soul had transformed, it was still unknown when he could trigger the god's test. Some people could trigger their own god's test right after their divine soul had transformed. However, some people had to wait for a month, a year, or even 10 or 20 years. There were all kinds of people who needed to trigger the god's test. As for when Longao could trigger the god's test, no one knew. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed. Longao's divine soul had completely transformed from the demigod's soul to the divine soul. This also meant that Longao had 1 foot in the divine path realm. As long as he could trigger the god's test and successfully pass it, he would be considered to have truly stepped into the divine path realm. If he hadn't devoured the mysterious spring water, Longao would have successfully transformed his divine soul. However, the situation was completely different now. After devouring the mysterious spring water, Longao didn't dare to be careless. This was because his body was now filled with endless spring water that flowed through every part of his body. Longao didn't put up any resistance because the firmament-devouring skill could devour the spring water. He believed that there must be a reason for it. Chapter 12-13. His spiritual soul had transformed, but it did not trigger the divine tribulation. But at this point, Longao already couldn't care about other things. The spring water was swallowed and flowed into every part of his body. No one knew if it was good or bad. His bloodline could not merge with the spring water? Longao was shocked when he sensed that his bloodline was rejecting the spring water. After thinking about it, Longao knew what had happened. His bloodline came from the reincarnation clan and was forcefully sealed. If an ordinary person swallowed the spring water, it would definitely merge with his bloodline. Even though it could not merge with his bloodline, the spring water did not seem to give up. Instead, it flowed into his dantian. Longao could not do anything about it. He could only watch as the spring water flowed into his dantian from all directions. The spring water was endless. After it flowed into his body, it seemed to be forcefully condensed. At the very least, it was 10,000 times more condensed. Otherwise, how could Longao's body contain so much spring water? When the spring water entered his dantian, a whirlpool began to spin. Chaotic dantian. Until now, Longao still did not know the origin of his chaotic dantian. Previously, the mysterious person had helped him break out of the cocoon and reform his dantian. After the spring water entered his dantian and spun for a few minutes, it was completely absorbed by his chaotic dantian. He heaved a long sigh of relief. He opened his eyes and took a step forward. Longao was already in front of Xiling and Bai Ling. He smiled and said, "My spiritual soul has finally transformed. Next, there is only one thing I need to do. Wait for the divine tribulation." Hearing this, Bai Ling was pleasantly surprised. Xiling asked curiously, "Longao, you just swallowed all the spring water. Didn't you feel anything strange?" "I don't know why, but when the spring water entered my body, it was all swallowed by my bloodline." Xiling nodded. He did not seem to suspect anything. Longao did not tell Xiling about his chaotic dantian. Other than Bai Ling, no one else knew about it. It was not that Longao did not believe in Xiling, but this matter was indeed too strange. "Longao, I didn't expect that you would devour the spring water. I thought that if my sister and I devoured the spring water, it would be very beneficial to our recovery." He shrugged helplessly. Since it had already happened, Longao knew that his dantian had already swallowed the spring water. It would be impossible for him to spit it out. The ninth nether mystery realm. What is the treasure that Longming mentioned? Could it be the inheritance of the 9 underworlds? Longao also knew that no matter what kind of treasure it was, before the inheritance of a master at the peak of martial arts, nothing was a treasure. For Longming to be able to obtain an inheritance at the pinnacle of martial arts, it could be said that this trip was not in vain. As long as he had enough time to receive the inheritance, it should not be a problem for Longming to reach the peak of the martial way in the future. "Longao, I know what you mean." Xiling thought for a while and continued, "The 9th Serenity Mystery Realm is not as simple as you think." "What do you mean?" "Longao, I believe that you already know that the master of the 9th Serenity Mystery Realm is even stronger than the Way of Heaven and has great divine powers. However, with your strength and situation, it is impossible for you to get it." He nodded. Longao had already guessed this. From the beginning to the end, Longao had never thought that he could get anything in the 9th Serenity Mystery Realm. As long as Longming could get what he wanted, everything would be worth it. Moreover, this time, after entering the 9th Serenity Mystery Realm, his spiritual soul had successfully transformed and swallowed the mysterious spring water, which was an unexpected surprise. After all, in the outside world, who knew how long it would take to break from the 9th Heaven Demigod Realm to the Divine Path Realm? However, in the 9th Serenity Mystery Realm, it had successfully transformed his spiritual soul in just a few hours. He did not continue to stay. Longao was very concerned about Longming. Although Longming was receiving the inheritance, no one knew if Longming had succeeded or if something had happened to him. Longao returned to the palace at full speed. An hour later. In the palace, Longao looked at the water tank in front of him. He knew very well that Long Ming had not finished receiving the inheritance. He felt helpless and could only continue to wait. The entire hall was still very quiet. It was silent, and it seemed especially gloomy. Xiling and Bailing did not appear because the two Jianling were very afraid of this super expert. Longao did not waste any time. He sat on the ground and began to cultivate quietly. His spiritual soul had successfully transformed. Longao knew very well that in order to break from the ninth heaven demigod realm to the divine path realm, he had to trigger the divine tribulation and successfully pass it. Since his spiritual soul had successfully transformed, Longao tried to communicate with heaven and earth, hoping to trigger the divine tribulation. After some communication, Longao found a problem. The palace seemed to be isolated from heaven and earth. It seemed impossible to trigger the divine tribulation. He shrugged helplessly. Longao knew very well that if he wanted to communicate with heaven and earth, he would have to leave the palace. Since he could not communicate with heaven and earth, Longao did not continue cultivating. He stood up and looked at the water tank in front of him quietly. Rumble, 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 rumble. The water tank in front of him bubbled and bubbled continuously. It took an entire day and night. Only then did Long Ming come out successfully. Longao asked impatiently, "Long Ming, what happened?" "Big brother, the treasure that father told me to look for is the succession of the netherworld. As for what happened just now, I still have no idea. I'll only know what happened after I refined the succession of the netherworld and activated it." So that was the case. "Long Ming, now that you have found what you are looking for, let's think of a way to deal with the 9 netherworlds race. Big bro, your spiritual soul has transformed?" Nodding his head, Longao did not hide anything from Long Ming. He told him everything that had happened earlier on. "Big bro, it seems difficult to communicate with heaven and earth in the 9 netherworld space. How about we leave the 9 netherworld space first? Once you have communicated with heaven and earth and your cultivation state has officially broken through to the supreme Tao state, we can return to the 9 netherworld space." Regarding Long Ming's meaning, how could Longao not know? Lowering his head, Longao was clear that the transformation of the spiritual soul and breaking through to the supreme Tao state were two different concepts. After all, the stronger one was, the more advantageous it would be for him. After thinking about it, Longao agreed. "You are right. Let's leave the 9 netherworld space first. It won't be too late to come back after I break through to the supreme Tao state." With that said, Longao and Long Ming did not stay any longer. Long Ming made use of his bloodline to forcefully open the entrance. Instantly, both of them disappeared without a trace. The moment Longao and Long Ming disappeared, the palace that was silent earlier on turned even darker. Within the gigantic water tank, a figure walked out of the bubbling water tank. He was dressed in black, with only a pair of eyes exposed. Chapter 12-14. Leaving the palace. As soon as Longao appeared at the back mountain of the 9 Netherbird clan, he was attacked from all directions. Longao didn't expect it, but he could guess who attacked him in an instant. Dozens of attacks. The original body was a supreme Tao martial artist. There was no need to guess. Longao could affirm that if nothing unexpected happened, it was definitely the 9 Netherbird clan's 10 elders. "Take him down!" At the Great Elder's command, the other 9 elders rushed over from all directions. A demigod martial artist? The 10 of them were a little surprised, but since he could enter the 9 Nether secret realm, he must have some secrets. Not to mention, the clan leader had ordered that no matter what happened, they must take him down. Otherwise, they couldn't explain to the clan leader. The 10 of them were full of confidence. They didn't take a demigod martial artist seriously at all. But the result? Just as the 10 of them got close and were about to attack, a shocking scene happened. Longao, who was still there, suddenly disappeared without a trace. The 10 of them were completely dumbfounded. They stood there coldly and looked at the empty space in front of them without blinking. "What happened? Where is he?" The 10 elders looked at each other and saw a trace of shock in each other's eyes. The 10 of them had never encountered such a thing before. If they couldn't catch him, how could they explain it to the clan leader? If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed what had just happened. A figure flashed. The 9 Nether Old Ancestor had already appeared. Looking at the 10 elders in front of him, he asked, "What happened?" Although they couldn't explain it, it had already happened, and the 10 of them didn't intend to hide it. The first elder recounted the events that had just transpired in detail. After listening, the 9 Nether Old Ancestors' face became gloomier and gloomier. It wasn't easy to find someone who had entered the 9 Nether Secret Realm. The 10 elders all attacked, but they couldn't catch him. If the 10 elders weren't on his side, the 9 Nether Old Ancestor wouldn't have chosen to believe it. If the other party was an expert, it would be fine. According to the Great Elder, the other party was just a demigod martial artist. He suppressed the anger in his heart. The 10 elders stood there, trembling in fear. They were afraid that the 9 Nether Patriarch would suddenly go crazy and kill them all. "Lock this place down. No one is allowed to enter." "Patriarch, what do you mean?" Before the first elder could say anything, the Netherworld Patriarch continued. "This person is only at the demigod realm. He doesn't dare to fight you head-on, but he can suddenly disappear. If I'm not mistaken, this person should have a spatial artifact." A spatial artifact? The 10 elders were all shocked when they heard the Patriarch's words. They all knew very well what a spatial god artifact meant. Moreover, the other party was able to use a spatial god artifact to vanish from their joint attack. It was obvious how powerful that spatial god artifact was. Since things had already reached this point, none of the 10 people dared to say a word. The 10 of them all retreated and locked onto their positions. Since the Patriarch had already said so, the 10 of them could only do as he said. In the Dragon Seal space, Longao was also depressed. If he hadn't entered the Dragon Seal space in time and reacted in time, he believed that he would have fallen long ago. Longao had already guessed why the 10 elders knew that he would appear. If he wasn't mistaken, Long Ming had used his bloodline to enter the 9 Nether Secret Realm. He must have alerted the enemy and attracted the 10 elders here. Now, he was in big trouble. Longao could clearly sense that the 10 people outside hadn't left, and even the 9 Nether Patriarch had personally come. Longao already guessed who the newcomer was based on the aura of the world. A Nirvana Realm martial artist and 10 Supreme Divine Realm martial artists. The Dragon Seal space couldn't be moved. If he wanted to leave, he had to leave the Dragon Seal space first. But in the current situation, could he leave the Dragon Seal space? Longao was very clear that if he chose to leave now, he would definitely be besieged from all sides. Even if his divine soul had transformed, it was impossible to fight against 11 people alone. Not to mention fighting against 11 people, even if it was a one-on-one battle, Longao knew that he couldn't defeat the other party. What should he do? After thinking about it, Longao couldn't think of a good idea. "Brother Long, if you want to leave here, there's only one way." "What way?" Hearing Bai Ling's words, Longao was delighted and couldn't wait to ask. "Create a diversion. I'll lure them away. Brother Long, take the opportunity to leave and we'll meet outside." "No. No." Before Bai Ling could finish, Xiling and Longao said in unison. What a joke! Longao already knew what Bai Ling meant. If Bai Ling was at her peak, he wouldn't have any problems. But now, the problem was that Bai Ling hadn't recovered to her peak, not even 1/10 of her strength. If Bai Ling went to lure the 11 people and something happened to her, he would never forgive himself. So, no matter what, he wouldn't agree to Bai Ling's request. "Bai Ling, I'll take care of this. I still have the corpse slave here." Longao smiled mysteriously because he had already thought of a way. It could be said that Bai Ling had given him the inspiration to create a diversion. He didn't believe that he wouldn't be able to leave successfully. As for the 11 people, he would come back sooner or later. Outside the Dragon Seal space, the 11 people all locked the space around them. The Netherworld Patriarch had personally come and helped by the 10 elders. The 11 people were full of confidence. If they let the other party escape, they could kill themselves. At this moment, in midair, a black shadow suddenly shot out. Before the 11 people could react, the black shadow had already shot towards the east, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. "Take him down!" Seeing the black shadow, the Netherworld Patriarch was overjoyed because the other party could open the 9 Serenity's secret realm. Wouldn't it be great if he could use the other party to enter the 9 Serenity's secret realm? Because of this, the 9 Nether-Old Ancestor led the 10 elders and chased after the black figure with all his strength. In another direction, Longao's figure appeared. He sneered and did not linger at all. With the help of space teleportation, his body disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. The Netherworld Patriarch and the 10 elders were very fast. In the blink of an eye, they had blocked the black shadow. But before the 11 people could ask, the corpse slave had already begun to attack. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. Even the corpse slave couldn't withstand the joint attack of the 11 people. Looking at the corpse slave in front of them, the 11 people were all dumbfounded. Was this the person who had angered the 9 Serenity's secret realm? Chapter 12-15. Sky Martial Continent. Dragon Peak. In the main hall of Dragon Sect, Long Ming used his bloodline to forcefully open the space, and Long Ao took the opportunity to leave the 9 nether space. Long Ao had already decided that when he attracted the divine tribulation and successfully broke through to the divine realm, he would enter the 9 nether space and help Long Ming take revenge. Demigod and divine realm were two completely different concepts. The stronger he was, the more advantageous it was for him. The divine soul had successfully transformed, and the next thing was to wait for the divine tribulation to descend. Long Ao had just returned to Dragon Sect when Dugubai said impatiently, "Brother Long, Qianyi wants to see you and has been waiting outside the peak." Qianyi? Old friend, Qianyi was Qianbuer's grandfather. When he killed Qianbuer, Qianyi had been holding a grudge, but he didn't have the chance and couldn't find the chance. Long Ao could assert with certainty that the current Qianyi definitely already knew his identity. He didn't refuse anyone. "Brother Dugu, remember to hide the sect. You can just accompany me out alone." Longing wasn't in Dragon Sect, so Dugubai, as the deputy master of Dragon Sect, was temporarily acting as Dragon Sect's master. Nodding, Dugubai also knew what Long Ao meant. Outside Dragon Peak. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. Seeing Long Ao and Dugubai appear, Qianyi suppressed the endless anger in his heart and snorted coldly. "Long Ao, you killed my grandson. Today, I will settle the score with you." Other than being Qianbu's grandfather, Qianyi also had another identity, and that was Shangguani's lackey. Long Ao knew very well that he had already reached an agreement with the Martial Artists Alliance. If nothing unexpected happened, Shangguania was still guarding the mountain peak. As for Qianyi, he only guessed that he was in the sect. "Qianyi, you really have the guts to come. I admire your courage." Qianyi was a heavenly god martial artist and wouldn't be scared by Long Ao. Furthermore, from the beginning to the end, Qianyi had never taken Long Ao seriously. As far as he was concerned, the reason why Long Ao was able to turn danger into safety time and time again was because he had the help of a benefactor. Otherwise, Long Ao would have perished long ago. "Long Ao, cut the crap. Today, I will avenge my grandson." "Ha ha ha, I already have an agreement with the Martial Artists Alliance. How dare you attack me?" Qianyi didn't seem to panic at all. "Long Ao, I'm here on my own behalf. I have nothing to do with the Martial Artists Alliance. The grudge between us must be settled today." This time, not only had Qianyi come personally, but he had also brought 20 people, 10 Nihility God Realm cultivators and 10 Spirit Focus Realm cultivators. They could be considered the most elite subordinates of the Red Blood Guards. It could be imagined that Qianyi had put in a lot of effort to kill Long Ao. Longao wasn't worried at all. It was only 20 people. Although his 500 divine dragon corpse slaves couldn't kill a heavenly god martial artist, he didn't have to worry about anyone below the earth god realm. As for Qianyi, Longao was more or less afraid of him. Before Qianyi attacked, a powerful sword aura came from the air. Sensing the sword aura, Longao was delighted. As for Qianyi, his face was extremely gloomy. He never expected that the Emperor Oken, Murongguena, would appear at this time. The sword aura disappeared. On the other side, a figure appeared out of thin air. It was the sword sect master, Emperor Oken, Murongguena. Longao, long time no see. Long time no see. Qianyi didn't dare to hesitate. He immediately bowed respectfully and said, Murong Master, Qianyi greets you. Qianyi knew very well that with his status, he couldn't be compared to the other party. After all, the other party was the sword sect master. Only the alliance master was qualified to compete with the other party and be on equal footing. Qianyi nodded. Qianyi, Longao is my friend. A simple sentence was enough to express Murongguena's attitude. Hearing this, Qianyi's face instantly turned ugly. He could ignore Longao and the dragon sect, but he didn't dare to ignore Murongguena. If Murongguena was unhappy, he wouldn't even know how he died. Murongguena's strength was there for all to see. Qianyi knew his own limits. Not to mention himself, even the alliance master might not be a match for Murongguena. However, things had already come to this point. How could he give up so easily? He couldn't accept it. Qianyi's heart was filled with unwillingness. Murong Master, I've just said that my visit has nothing to do with the alliance. This is just a feud between me and Longao. As the sword sect master, Murong Master is high and mighty. You won't interfere in our feud, right? Qianyi was betting that Murongguena wouldn't lower himself to deal with him, nor would he interfere in the feud between him and Longao. If it was someone else, Qianyi wouldn't have full confidence. However, the other party was Murongguena, the sword sect master. As expected. Hearing this, Murongguena's face turned ugly. As the sword sect master, if he lowered himself to deal with Qianyi, once the news got out, where would his face go? What's more, Qianyi was a member of the Martial Artists Alliance. The sword sect had a feud with the Martial Artists Alliance. If the two sides went to war because of this, the gains would not make up for the losses. Murongguena was in a dilemma. Qianyi was waiting for Murongguena's decision. Murong Master, what Qianyi said just now was right. This is a feud between me and him. I will solve it myself. I hope Murong Master won't interfere in this matter. Longao knew how shameless Qianyi was. Because of this, he couldn't drag Murongguena into a dilemma. What's more, it would be unkind of him to make the Sword Sect and the Martial Artists Alliance go to war for a small Qianyi. After thinking for a while, Murongguena didn't seem to want to lower himself. He nodded and said, I believe you. Longao, I heard that you have 200 divine dragons. If you use the power of the divine dragons, can I take it that the Long family wants to interfere in this matter? Shameless. Longao cursed in his heart. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen someone so shameless. Qianyi's shamelessness had reached the extreme. Ha ha ha, Qianyi, just say it. You are afraid of my divine dragon army. Longao shook his head in disdain. His face was filled with contempt. He sneered and said, Qianyi, don't say that I didn't give you a chance. If you can withstand my 200 divine dragon army, I will let you go. Qianyi's face was cold. Of course, he knew what 200 divine dragons meant. Longao. Without giving Qianyi any chance to speak, Longao continued. Qianyi, cut the crap. If you want to fight, then fight. If you don't, then get lost. Longao, who had not finished speaking, suddenly had a change in expression. He raised his head and looked at the sky. The shock in his heart was incomparable because he had never thought that the divine tribulation would descend at this time. P.S. Chapter 7 has been delivered. The remaining 3 chapters will be delivered after midnight. Chapter 12:16. The God Tribulation had descended. Longao had not expected his God Tribulation to descend at this moment. It had not even been a day since his soul had transformed. Wasn't the God Tribulation a little too fast? No one could predict when the God Tribulation would descend. Some martial artists would immediately trigger the God Tribulation the moment their souls transformed. But some martial artists might not be able to trigger the God Tribulation even after 8 to 10 years of soul transformation. At the end of the day, the speed of the God Tribulation depended on the person. Not only Longao, but even Muronguena and Qianyi were shocked. Both of them had not expected Longao to trigger the God Tribulation at this moment. Be it Qianyi or Muronguena, all of them retreated. The power of the God Tribulation was well known. No matter who it was, no one could go head to head with the God Tribulation, not even Nirvana realm martial artists. Longao did not continue to look at Qianyi coldly. At this moment, the most important thing was to get through the God Tribulation. Everything else was secondary. Boom, boom, boom. At the peak of the 9 heavens, the sound of thunder boomed. The clear skies a moment ago were filled with dark clouds in the blink of an eye. Looking at the dark clouds densely covering the summit of the 9 heavens, Longao was very clear in his heart that the divine tribulation that he had to face was about to arrive. The Dragon Peak was quiet and secluded. Longao also did not expect that the place where he would undergo the divine tribulation would be in front of the sect. If he was not careful, the divine tribulation would descend. At that time, the fish in the moat would be implicated and the entire sect would become barren. But at this moment, Longao could not inform the sect to hide. God Tribulation. I, Longao, would like to see just how strong the God Tribulation is. The aura of thunder started to fill the entire sky. The aura of the heaven and earth in front of the Dragon Peak was devoured by the aura of thunder and disappeared without a trace. Boom! A vast and majestic aura instantly descended. It did not even give Longao the slightest chance to react. All of a sudden, Longao felt the whole world pressing down on him. Beads of sweat oozed out of his forehead. The whole world began to become restless. Rumbling sounds of thunder and lightning kept ringing out. Longao stared intently at the 9 heavens, enduring the immense pressure. He did not dare to be careless. He knew very well how powerful the power of the God's tribulation was. According to the information he had received, the divine tribulation was divided into 9 levels. In ascending order, the divine tribulations were divided into 1st Heaven Tribulation, 9th Heaven Tribulation, 18th Heaven Tribulation, 36th Heaven Tribulation, 48th Heaven Tribulation, 72nd Heaven Tribulation, 81st Heaven Tribulation, 99th Heaven Tribulation, and the legendary 10,000 Heaven Tribulation. At this moment, Longao felt that all the lightning aura in the surrounding space had been compressed around his body. In other words, the aura of the divine tribulation had locked onto him. Within this area, no matter who it was, once they entered, they would be attacked by the power of the divine tribulation. That was indeed the case. Be it Qianyi or Muronguena, they were all far away from the area of the divine tribulation. Longao didn't know what level of divine tribulation the divine tribulation he had triggered was. But Longao was clear in his heart. The higher the level of the divine tribulation, the more powerful it would be after passing it. The God territory he would possess would be even more horrifying. But the higher the level of the divine tribulation, the more dangerous it would be. Gritting his teeth, Longao ignored the aura that was suppressing him. He started channeling the so-called 9 revolving reincarnation. Looking at the bean-sized beads of sweat dripping down from Longao's head, Qianyi was pleasantly surprised. Even though he was surprised at Longao's cultivation speed, many martial artists had lost their lives during the divine tribulation. If Longao were to be killed by the divine tribulation, it would save him a lot of trouble. After all, Muronguena was right beside him. The entire world seemed to be covered by a gigantic black cloth. It was so dark that it gave one a feeling of suffocation. Boom, boom, boom. Within the pitch-black cloud city, lightning bolts crisscrossed, giving off sparks. At the peak of the 9 heavens, the dark clouds were like volcanoes that were about to erupt at any moment. Boom, boom! A thunderbolt as thick as a tree trunk rolled out of the dark clouds. With a loud crack, it struck down towards Longao. Boom, boom! The divine tribulation was extremely domineering. Its speed was so fast that it could not be seen with the naked eye. Longao did not dare to be careless. The god-slaying sword in his hand slashed out fiercely. Longao had already decided that he was going to take this divine tribulation head-on. He wanted to see just how horrifying the might of the divine tribulation was. If anyone else were to know of Longao's thoughts, they would probably be scared out of their wits. After all, when the divine tribulation descended, countless people would try all sorts of ways to defend against it. Very few people would choose to take it head-on, let alone take the initiative to attack. The sword she slashed out as well. Boom! A loud explosion reverberated through the heaven and earth. Chapter 12-17. Murongwena was shocked as well. If it were any other martial artist, they would have definitely fallen after being struck by the infinite heaven tribulation twice in a row. But what about Longao? If not for the fact that he was witnessing it with his very own eyes, he would never have believed that this was happening right before his very eyes. Within Longao's body, the moment the power of thunder entered his body, it flowed through every single part of his body. Before the thunder could even react, it was already devoured by the spring water. Rumble! At this moment, the 9 heavens were filled with dark clouds. It was as though they wanted to take down Longao in a single stroke. It was no longer one after another, but hundreds of thunderbolts at the same time. The sound of thunder boomed through the entire world. Holy F***ck! Longao reared his head into the skies and roared out. Longao's actions had both Murongwena and Qianyi jumping in fright. Both of them had the same thought in their minds. Was Longao tired of living? The god-slaying sword in Longao's hands slashed out continuously. Sword chi shot out one after another. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of sword chis were slashed out as well. The thunderbolts were relentless. The sword chis crisscrossed. The thunderbolts and sword chis clashed wantonly. The entire world was filled with sparks. Looking from afar, it was truly a miraculous sight. Qianyi wasn't the only one. Murongwena, Dugubai, and all the other disciples of the dragon sect were present. Looking at Longao, who was floating in midair not too far away, everyone was dumbfounded. Boom! The sword chis were defeated entirely. Like a victorious army, the thunderbolts pierced straight into Longao's body. Boom! Boom! Fresh blood spurted out. If not for the fact that Longao had withstood it forcefully, Longao would have fallen from the sky by now. Wiping away the fresh blood from the side of his mouth, Longao's eyes were already bloodshot. His body emitted a strong killing intent that was filled with killing intent. Those cold eyes of his were glaring at the 9 heavens. Dark clouds covered the skies. His eyes were filled with determination and viciousness. It was as though he was challenging the 9 heavens god tribulation. Challenging? That's right, it was a provocation. My fate is up to me, not the heavens. So what if you have the 10,000-fold sutra? You want to kill me? Ha ha ha, today, I want to see whether you or I will die. Looking at the crazy Longao, everyone swallowed their saliva hard. This was too damn arrogant. However, Longao's arrogance and craziness had thoroughly convinced everyone in the dragon sect. All the disciples were proud to have such a person in their sect. Ha ha ha, 10,000-layer divine tribulation, come, I'll be waiting for you here. My fate is in my own hands, not in the hands of the heavens. Ha ha. Longao laughed crazily. His laughter was filled with an imposing manner of who else but me. Overlooking the heavens, who dares to fight me? provoking the divine tribulation and looking down on the heavens. Who could resist Longao's boldness? In the void of the 9 heavens, the rolling dark clouds seemed to be able to understand Longao's words. Someone dared to provoke the divine tribulation? The 10,000-layer divine tribulation was thoroughly enraged as it let out a thunderous roar, as though it was responding to Longao's provocation. Boom, boom, boom. Earlier on, there were only a few hundred thunderbolts. But at this moment, the number of thunderbolts increased by 100 times. 10,000-layer thunderbolts struck down at the same time. This was the legendary 10,000-layer divine tribulation. It was either you die or I die. Longao released a horrifying sword force. This time around, he did not send out much sword chi. Instead, he sent out a single sword chi. The 100 feet sword chi was like a soaring dragon, breaking through the 10,000-layer thunderbolts. Boom, boom, boom. Longao was already drowned in the 10,000-layer divine tribulation. Looking at this situation, Qianyi cried out in joy. Muronguina and everyone else from the dragon sect were shocked beyond words. Longao was drowned in thunderbolts. Could he survive? The baptism of thunderbolts. Longao's body was filled with the 10,000-layer divine tribulation thunder. If it were anyone else, they would have died long ago. How could they have survived till now? Longao was not dead. The moment the 10,000-layer divine tribulation thunder entered his body, it was covered by the endless spring water. Right now, Longao was covered in thunderbolts. He was like a gigantic cocoon, with lightning snakes flashing all around him. At this moment, under the constant collisions between the thunderbolts and the spring water, the realm within Longao's body began to transform into a god realm. A void god realm. Longao himself had triggered the 10,000-layer divine tribulation thunder. Once he passed through it successfully, the void god realm that he cultivated would be much stronger than other void god realm martial artists. However, Longao's endless massacre had already been fused into his god realm. Not only that, the thunderbolts were beginning to fuse into his god realm. This was something that Longao had not expected at all. Once the massacre and thunder fused together successfully, it would mean that his god realm possessed dual powers. One was the power of massacre, and the other was the power of thunder. Longao knew that if it was not for the sudden appearance of the spring water, he would not have been able to withstand the attack of the 10,000-layer divine tribulation thunder. Until now, Longao had not figured out the origin of the mysterious spring water. However, he knew that the mysterious spring water had devoured the thunderbolts and helped him to cultivate his god realm. It possessed the power of both massacre and thunder. Looking at Longao, who was covered in thunderbolts, Qianyi was almost certain that Longao had died. He felt relieved. As for Muronguina, he sighed deeply. He had the same thought as Qianyi. Longao had been attacked by the 10,000-layer divine tribulation. It was unrealistic for him to survive. The entire dragon sect was terrified. Longao was dead. Was it true? At this moment, no one from Longao was willing to believe it, including Dugabai. Longao was a godlike existence in the dragon sect. He was also the spiritual pillar. If Longao fell, the dragon sect would be finished. Everyone's eyes were staring at the lightning cocoon above the 9th heaven. After a few minutes, everyone began to become curious. According to normal circumstances, Longao had already fallen, so he should have fallen. But now, Longao was shrouded in lightning, like a huge cocoon, lying quietly in the air. It was really unknown whether he was alive or dead. Qianyi, who was just pleasantly surprised in his heart, began to slowly become shocked. His face was full of surprise because he didn't know why, but he always felt that this matter was a little strange. It seemed that Longao didn't die. He clearly knew that this was impossible, but this feeling was abnormally strong. Could it be that Longao was really not dead? That was not possible. How could he survive after being struck by the 10,000-layer divine tribulation? Not to mention seeing it with their own eyes, they had never even heard of a martial artist who could survive a 10,000-layer divine tribulation. Everyone was waiting to see if Longao had fallen or not. Qianyi hoped that Longao had fallen, but the dragon sect did not want Longao to fall. Just when everyone didn't know whether Longao was alive or dead, the huge lightning cocoon, kacha, kacha, a cracking sound rang out. Before everyone could react, a roar came out from the huge cocoon. Chapter 12:18. 1,000 feet long sword she streaked across. The gigantic lightning cocoon was sliced into pieces and disappeared from the world. The 10,000 levels of God calamity disappeared, and the world regained its peace. Longao stepped on the void. One man and one sword, he stood silently in midair. Qianyi, do you dare to fight with me? Longao's voice rang out slowly, domineering and arrogant. Looking at the young man standing in the void, Qianyi's face was extremely dark and terrible. Longao had issued a challenge. If he did not accept it, where would his face go? But this time, he was the one who came knocking on his door. Qianyi was wary of the other party. He knew in his heart that the other party had just passed through the God calamity. So what if he passed through the 10,000 levels of God calamity? There were 5 states of the divine path. The difference between each state was like an insurmountable chasm. Not to mention the difference between a void god and a heavenly god. But for some reason, Qianyi was wary of the other party. Otherwise, he would have accepted the challenge long ago and not dilly-dallied. To be on the safe side, Qianyi naturally would not accept the challenge. Longao, you don't have the rights to fight with me. As he said that, 2 void god martial artists shot out from behind him. Qianyi's intention was clear. He wanted to test out the other party's strength. As the saying goes, know thyself and know thy enemy to be victorious in every battle. Ha! Longao burst out laughing. His laughter was filled with disdain and contempt. One had to admit that Qianyi's skin was really thick. Even so, he treated it as though it was nothing. Qianyi, since you don't dare to accept the challenge, let all of them come at me. Longao's arrogance caused Qianyi's face to darken. Snorting coldly, he waved his hand and the 18 people behind him swarmed forward. This time around, Qianyi brought out 20 people. 10 of them were of void god cultivation, while the other 10 were of spirit-focused cultivation. This was a force to be reckoned with. If it were any other martial artist who had just stepped into void god, it would be hard for him to win even if he were to fight alone, let alone 1 against 20. If someone was here and saw Longao challenging 20 Supreme Dao martial artists, they would probably think that Longao's brain was flooded with water. Everyone in the dragon sect stared at him. For some reason, everyone in the dragon sect, including Dugubai, believed that Longao would win this battle. In this battle, there was a great disparity in strength. In this battle, Longao fought 1 against 20. The 20 of them had just arrived in front of Longao. They hadn't even stood firm or said anything when Longao's body had already disappeared. Seeing this, Qianyi was shocked. Be careful. It's too late. Longao sneered. In the next second, Longao's body suddenly appeared behind the 20 people. With the help of spatial teleportation, the 20 people didn't sense Longao's aura fluctuation from beginning to end. He didn't even have time to turn around. The 20 people were frightened to the extreme. They did not dare to hesitate. The 20 Supreme Dao warriors all released their own god domains, layer upon layer. 10 void god domains, 10 divine focus god domains. The power of such a superposition of god domains could be imagined. Unless it was a god domain above the human god level, otherwise, even a divine focus god domain would not be able to resist the superposition of god domains. But the result? Longao also released the god domain that he had just condensed. The double god domain of slaughter and thunder collided, and the superposition of god domains began to suppress them. Was it possible for one person to forcibly suppress the superposition of god domains released by 20 Supreme Dao warriors? Innate divine ability, Dragon Roar. Under normal circumstances, Longao had just passed the god tribulation, and at this time, he needed to stabilize his realm. However, Longao knew very well that if he didn't solve Qian Yi's problem as soon as possible, he would have endless troubles. Rather than that, it was better to solve it as soon as possible. Innate divine ability, Dragon Roar. The 20 people were frightened to the extreme. Not only was the god domain released by the other party powerful, but even his innate divine ability was so terrifying. The 20 people, without exception, all felt that the flow of space around them was forcibly changed, and their bodies were even locked. Not only that. At the same time, Longao used his self-created martial technique, Sorrow of Heaven and Earth. As his cultivation base broke through to the Supreme Tao realm, the level of Sorrow of Heaven and Earth also increased instantly, from an ordinary martial technique to a Supreme Tao martial technique, and a very powerful one at that. Longao's body began to spin wildly, and a huge black whirlwind appeared. The 20 people were locked in place, their aura was suppressed, and their superposition of god domains were even more suppressed. At this moment, the 20 people could be said to be completely suppressed by Longao. In the blink of an eye, before the 20 Supreme Tao warriors could react, they were already shrouded in the black whirlwind. The 5 levels of the Supreme Tao, from the lowest to the highest, were Void God, Divine Focus, Human God, Earth God, and Heaven God. The 5 realms of the Supreme Tao were completely different from the Great Emperor realm and the Demigod realm. The 5 realms of the Supreme Tao were not divided into ranks. In other words, the 5 realms of the Supreme Tao, such as the Void God realm, only had the Void God realm, and there were no elementary, intermediate, or advanced levels. However, the 5 realms of the Supreme Tao were divided into strong and weak, and the biggest difference was the difference between god domains and martial techniques. Inside the black whirlwind, the dragon's roar continued to resound, locking in the bodies of the 20 people. Not only that, Longao endured the waves of weakness that came from his body, and forcefully created 2 figures. The lightning and slaughter emitted a powerful aura, and fiercely suppressed the 20 people. Longao knew that he had just passed the god's test, and the longer he delayed, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. Even if he could completely suppress the 20 people, once the weakness spread all over his body, the consequences would be unimaginable. Sword Principle. As his cultivation base broke through to the Supreme Tao realm, Longao's understanding of Sword Principle had also reached a new level. Longao also wanted to see how powerful his sword chi could be after his cultivation base broke through to the Supreme Tao realm. 36 Thunder Styles, Emperor Dragon's 9 Fatal Strikes, all merged together to form a brand new sword skill, which was the God-Killing skill. Normally, Longao rarely used the God-Killing sword, but at this time, the God-Killing skill was no longer the same as before. The God-Killing sword chi instantly shot out, and Longao's figure disappeared. With the help of teleportation, without giving the 20 people a chance to react, the sword chi and his body appeared one after another in front of the 20 people. Their bodies were locked, and their god domains were suppressed. Now, how much power could the 20 people release to resist the so-called god-killing sword chi? Moreover, after the god-killing sword chi, there was still Longao's attack. The result of this battle was already imaginable. At the same time when the god-killing sword chi attacked, Longao also used the firmament-devouring skill. A huge black whirlpool appeared behind him, and it began to devour the divine souls of the 20 Supreme Tao martial artists. Inside the black whirlwind, no one knew what was happening, and no one could see the situation inside the black whirlwind. P.S. All 10 chapters have been delivered. It's almost 4 o'clock. Xiaojiu goes to sleep first. Chapter 12-19. Inside the Black Whirlwind. At this moment, figures shot out from the black whirlwind and flew out like kites with their strings cut. The whirlwind disappeared and Longao's figure reappeared in the void. 20 silhouettes fiercely fell from the sky, smashing into the ground with a series of loud noises, creating huge craters. In just a few minutes, all 20 of them fell? Qianyi was dumbfounded. Murongena was dumbfounded. Everyone in Dragon's sect was dumbfounded. Looking at the corpses on the ground, everyone looked at Longao. This was someone who had just passed the god's tribulation and achieved supreme Tao. Such strength was too terrifying. Qianyi, do you dare to fight with me? After dealing with 20 people, Longao did not rest and continued to issue a challenge. He even challenged a divine realm martial artist. Too arrogant. If it was before the battle, many people would not believe Longao and thought that Longao was too arrogant. But now, after the battle, even if Longao continued to challenge divine realm martial artists, in the eyes of outsiders, it was a matter of course. They even thought that Longao could kill a divine realm martial artist. Would Qianyi dare to accept the challenge? Longao, the Green Mountain will not change and the green water will flow forever. One day, I will make a comeback. Qianyi was scared. The strength that Longao displayed had deeply shocked him. If he did not leave, then he would not be Qianyi. He turned and left. Soon, Qianyi's body disappeared without a trace. From the beginning to the end, Longao had no intention of chasing him. Looking at the gradually disappearing figure, Longao breathed a sigh of relief. He challenged Qianyi just to scare him. If it was a real battle, he could not defeat Qianyi. There were two reasons. First, even if Longao successfully broke through to the Supreme Tao realm, he would only be in the Empty God realm. The gap between Empty God and Divine realm was too big. Secondly, Longao had just succeeded in passing the tribulation. His body itself was very weak, and he had also fought a great battle with 20 Supreme Tao martial artists. If he continued to fight at this time, there was almost a probability of complete defeat. Longao was gambling, and he didn't dare to accept the challenge. As expected, Qianyi was intimidated by himself. He didn't dare to accept the challenge and turned to leave. The void slowly walked over. Murong Master, I want to rest for a while. Let's talk later. All right, go ahead. Longao also did not have the slightest bit of politeness, and directly disappeared in front of everyone. Seeing this, everyone was dumbfounded. They all looked coldly at the figure that had just disappeared, as well as the Sword Sect Master, Emperor Oken, and Murongena, who were still standing in their original positions. Who was Murongena? Sword Sect Master, a super expert, top 10 on the heaven list. Such a person was casually placed here by Longao. If it was an ordinary person, would they dare to do so? No one dared to speak. They all scattered. Dugubai brought Murongena into the Dragon Sect's main hall and carefully received him. Dragon Sect's back mountain, a small courtyard. Longao was quietly cultivating. This time, he had successfully passed the 10,000 level divine tribulation. It could be considered a blessing in disguise. Longao never thought that the divine tribulation he had attracted would be the highest level, the 10,000 level divine tribulation. This was the legendary divine tribulation. 10,000 people had encountered it, but no one could pass it smoothly. 3 days and 3 nights. Longao smoothly broke through to the Supreme Tao realm. Only then did it stabilize. Brother Long, how do you feel? Nodding, Longao smiled and said, I'm fine. Brother Long, you're really lucky. This 10,000 level divine tribulation was swallowed by the mysterious spring water. If not, then... Bai Ling stopped abruptly and did not continue. However, the meaning in her words was clear. How could Longao not understand Bai Ling's meaning? Thinking about it now, he felt a lingering fear. Just like what Bai Ling said, if the mysterious spring water had not gushed out and swallowed the lightning energy, it would have been impossible for him to pass the divine tribulation smoothly. What was the origin of the mysterious spring water? Longao was not a fool. The mysterious spring water could swallow the 10,000 level divine tribulation. Thinking about it, he knew how terrifying the mysterious spring water was. However, Longao was clear that no matter what, as long as the mysterious spring water was beneficial to him, it would be difficult for him to find out the origin of the mysterious spring water at this moment. Brother Long, you have successfully passed the 10,000 level divine tribulation and condensed the slaughter and lightning dual divine domains. Not only in the void God divine domain, but also in the divine focus divine domain, and even in the mortal God divine domain, you are invincible. Eh? Hearing Bai Ling's words, Longao was overjoyed. It would be a lie to say that he was not happy. Longao was clear about what it meant to be invincible in the divine domain. With the absolute suppression of the divine domain, not to mention fighting with someone of the same level, it was not impossible to challenge someone of a higher level. It was almost impossible to challenge someone of a higher level in the 5 divine realms. After all, the gap between each realm was extremely huge. Therefore, Longao was pleasantly surprised. Bai Ling, I have successfully passed the divine tribulation this time. Next, I am going to break through to the divine focus realm at the fastest speed. However, I don't know much about the 5 divine realms. Now, tell me more about the 5 divine realms. Nodding her head, Bai Ling started to explain gently. After half an hour, she finally finished explaining. Longao was helpless because he was clear that it was not an easy thing to break through to the divine focus realm from the nihility God realm. Brother Long, I know that you are very anxious. However, in the path of cultivation, you have to take each step carefully. If you are too hasty, not only will there be no benefits, you might even suffer a backlash. You have just passed the divine tribulation and broken through to the divine Tao realm. At this time, the most important thing is to stabilize the nihility God realm and not to think about how to break through to the divine focus realm quickly. Nodding his head, Longao knew that he was a little impatient. If he did that, there would be no benefits for him. Just like what Bai Ling said, the path of cultivation itself was against the heavens. One had to take each step carefully. If one was to spoil things by excessive enthusiasm, there would be no benefits, only disadvantages. Longao was also very clear about this point. However, the higher the strength, the more benefits it would be for him. If he wanted to live a better life in this man-eat-man world, his strength must be strong. His fist must be hard enough. Otherwise, besides being beaten everywhere, the safety of his family could not be guaranteed. The most important thing now was to stabilize the realm. After that, it would not be too late to think about how to break through to the divine focus realm. After thinking it through, Longao smiled. Seeing Longao smile, Bai Ling already knew what Longao was thinking. She also let out a long sigh of relief. Bai Ling's good intentions, Longao saw it in his heart. However, he did not say it out loud. This kind of girl, using actions to love was enough. There was no need to talk about it. Longao did not like sweet words. Actions spoke louder than words. Chapter 1220 Dragon Peak. In the lobby of Dragon Sect. Murongguina wasn't angry at Longao's sudden disappearance. If it was anyone else, would they dare to treat the Sword Sect Master like this? There was no doubt about it. Murong Master, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. It's okay. Longao entered the lobby and saw Murongguina's gentle face. He smiled from the bottom of his heart. Longao had a good impression of Murongguina. Previously in the Martial Artists Alliance, Longao knew very well that only the Sword Sect Master sincerely wanted to help him. As for the others, they could only snort. Longao, congratulations on successfully breaking through to the Supreme Tao stage. With your talent and cultivation speed, I believe that it won't be long before you advance to the Supreme Tao stage. Thank you for your kind words. Longao didn't have the slightest hesitation and accepted it gladly. In Longao's opinion, his cultivation speed was indeed very fast. He didn't dare to say that he was the strongest, but he was already better than many people. Just as Murongguina said, his current cultivation had officially broken through to the Supreme Tao stage. Next, he would try his best to break through to the Supreme Tao stage. Murong Master, I wonder why you're here this time? Longao obviously didn't want to talk about his own affairs. Murongwena was an old fox, it was impossible for him not to know. Longao, since that's the case, I'll get straight to the point. He nodded. Longao wasn't a fool. Murongwena wouldn't come to the sect for no reason. There must be something. Could it be about the alliance? As expected. Longao, Dragon Sect and my Sword Sect have already formed an alliance. I'd like to ask, what are you going to do next? To tell the truth. Without hiding anything, Longao said. To tell you the truth, Shangguaniye from the Martial Artists Alliance and Long Heng from the Long family have a huge grudge against me. Even if nothing happens to the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family, they won't let it go. Murongwena did not say anything. Longao continued. With the sect's current strength, we can't go head to head with the two of them. So, I'm going to hide for a while. As for the development, we'll talk about it later. He nodded. Murongwena had an understanding look on his face. After all, Long Heng and Shangguaniye were powerful. Dragon Sect alone was no match for them. Since that's the case, I won't say anything more. Murongwena stood up, and after exchanging a few polite words with Longao, he turned and left. Seventh brother, are you okay? Dugubai and Longing only dared to ask after Murongwena left. They could not wait. After all, they did not know whether Longao had any side effects from the god's tribulation. How could Longao not know what his two brothers meant? He smiled. I'm fine. I've successfully passed the god's tribulation and reached the divine path. I'll discuss with you about the next thing. In the following time. Longao roughly told them what he was thinking. Even if Longing and Dugubai did not want to, they could only nod and agree. They knew Longao's character very well. Once he decided on something, he would not change his mind under normal circumstances. Longao's intention was very simple. This time, he left the 9 nether space to trigger the god's tribulation in the shortest time possible, so that he could break through the 9th heaven demigod realm and reach the so-called divine path realm. Now that he had successfully broken through, he had to return to the 9 nether space. Whether he was an enemy of the 9 Netherbird clan or not, he had to avenge Long Ming. This was what he promised Long Ming, and he would do it. That was exactly it. Longao briefly explained the big and small matters. With his brother and Dugubai leading the Dragon Sect, he believed that it would be more than enough for them to develop steadily. Moreover, the sect was still in hiding and not developing. Longao only stayed in the Dragon Sect for a short 3 days. 3 days later, Longao left the sect. Long Ming used his bloodline to forcefully open the space. Then, Longao entered the 9 nether space, and his body disappeared without a trace. In the 9 nether space. Although he had already entered the 9 nether space, Longao did not act rashly. No matter what, the 9 Netherbird clan's strength could not disappear. Not only did they have 10 Supreme Divine Path warriors, but they also had a Nirvana Realm warrior. Although Longao was confident in his own strength, he knew his own limits. Even if his cultivation had successfully broken through to the empty God realm, it was almost impossible for him to fight with a Supreme Divine Path warrior or even a Nirvana Realm warrior. The main reason why Longao dared to enter the 9 nether space was that he had the 5 elements slaves with him. The 5 elements slaves could only defend and could not attack. However, this was enough. The defensive power of the 5 elements slaves was there for all to see. Not to mention a Supreme Divine Way martial artist, even a Nirvana martial artist could easily resist it. Brother, what are you going to do? Long Ming was a little impatient, but he was more worried. Long Ming, I believe that you know the situation of the 9 Netherbird clan better than I do. If we use the normal method, it will be difficult for us to succeed. I have thought about this before, and there is only one way to destroy the 9 Netherbird clan. What is it? Long Ming was overjoyed when he heard his brother's words. He could not wait to ask. Since the 9 Netherbird clan was destroyed and his parents were killed, Long Ming had been thinking about revenge. However, his strength was limited. Even if he had obtained the inheritance, it would not be easy to refine it. God knew how long it would take. Long Ming was not willing to wait and did not want to wait. However, Long Ming was more or less guilty because his brother had entered the nine nether space for him. If anything happened to his brother, he would not be able to forgive himself. However, since things had come to this point, Long Ming knew that his brother would not choose to give up at this time. Destroy them one by one. Destroy them one by one? Long Ming was a little curious and puzzled. Long Ming, the Nine Netherbird clan is very powerful. We have to deal with the 10 elders first. As for the Nine Netherbird Old Ancestor, we will talk about it later. As for the 10 elders, it will be very difficult for us to fight them together. Therefore, if we destroy them one by one and kill them one by one, I believe that our chances of success will be very high. Long Ming was not a fool. He already understood what his brother meant and nodded in agreement. Brother, we will live and die together. Hearing Long Ming's words, Longao was a little moved. These simple words had already expressed Long Ming's intention. This time, Longao did not say anything more. It was still the same sentence. This was how brothers should live and die together. Brother, who should we deal with first? The 10 elders were all supreme divine Dao martial artists. However, their strength varied. The great elder was the strongest and the 10th elder was the weakest. Longao did not even think about it and said directly, "The 10th elder." Chapter 12:21. There was no doubt that the 10th elder was the weakest among the 10 elders of the Nine Netherbird clan. It was just as Longao had guessed. The 4 supreme realms were Divine King, Divine Emperor, Divine Master, and Divine Emperor. The great elder of the Nine Netherbird clan was a peak Divine Emperor, while the 10th elder was only a Divine King. It was impossible to say that it wasn't serious. Longao was very clear about his own strength. If he were to fight a spirit condensation martial artist and use his trump card, it was still possible to kill him. But against a supreme divine path expert, even if he defeated them one by one, it would be difficult. That was the case. Longao did not act rashly. He was thinking of ways to deal with the 10 elders of the Nine Netherbird clan. As for the patriarch of the Nine Netherbird clan, he would deal with him last. At the back mountain of the Nine Netherbird clan. Ever since Longao left, the Nine Netherworld Old Ancestor and the 10 elders had not left the back mountain. The reason was simple. Someone was able to open the Nine Netherworld secret domain. This was something that the 11 of them had never expected. After 10 days, the 11 of them still had not found anything. The Nine Netherworld Old Ancestor's face was gloomy. The 10 elders did not dare to say a word as they were afraid of getting burned. Who could it be? The Nine Netherworld Old Ancestor seemed to have thought of something and shook his head. This matter is sealed. No one is allowed to leak a word. Otherwise, you will be killed. Before the 10 of them could speak, the Nine Netherworld Old Ancestor had already disappeared. The Nine Netherworld Old Ancestor was not a fool. The fact that they had not found anyone after such a long time meant that the other party had already left. As for the Nine Netherworld secret domain, unless they found the person, no one in the Nine Netherbird clan would be able to open it. Looking at the clan head who had already disappeared, the 10 elders looked at each other, and they could see deep helplessness and shock in each other's eyes. If they hadn't experienced it themselves, they wouldn't have believed that the clan head was able to escape under their noses. Great Elder, what should we do now? From now on, this matter has never happened. No one is allowed to leak it out. The 9 of them nodded in agreement. In the distance, Longao had successfully entered the Nine Netherbird clan. With the help of the Dragon Seal Space's concealment power, not to mention the 10 elders, even the patriarch of the Nine Netherbird clan did not discover his tracks. Seeing the 10 of them leave, Longao did not choose anyone else and directly followed the 10th elder. There was no sound. The 10 elders of the Nine Netherbird clan each had their own mountain peak. The 10 Elders' mountain peak was relatively remote. There were several thousand people in the mountain peak, and all of them wore black clothes. Along the way, Longao didn't make a move. It was still the same words, the 10th Elder's strength was there. Before he had full confidence, he wouldn't rashly make a move. If the first attack failed, it would be very difficult to find a second opportunity. Big Brother Long, I've already sensed it earlier. Although the other party is a God King, with your strength, you're still no match for him. The 4 realms of the Divine Tao were Divine King, Divine Emperor, Supreme God, and Divine Emperor. The Divine Tao realm and the Supreme Divine Tao realm were similar. There was no difference between elementary, middle, or high, but there was still a difference between strong and weak. In other words, there was a difference in strength between God Kings of the same level. How could Longao not know what Bai Ling said? He had just broken through to the Divine Tao realm, the empty God realm. However, the 10th Elder was a genuine God King. Regardless of his strength, he was far beyond him. With his strength, if he faced the 10th Elder head-on, it was unknown whether he could survive, let alone kill him. Bai Ling, do you have a way? Longao understood Bai Ling. If there was no other way, Bai Ling wouldn't have done this. As expected. Big Brother Long, you have the protection of the 5 elements slave. It's hard for the other party to hurt you. You just have to keep draining his strength. According to my estimation, in 3 days at most, his strength will be greatly reduced. By then, without waiting for Bai Ling to finish, Xiling continued. Longao, my sister's idea is very simple. Let's let you drain his strength first. Then both of us will go all out and we should be able to kill him. I see. Longao didn't agree immediately. No matter what, in order to deal with the 10th Elder, Xiling and Bai Ling would be in danger. He would rather do it himself. Xiling, Bai Ling, tell me honestly. How much have you recovered? Violet Spirit and Bai Ling looked at each other, feeling a deep sense of helplessness. The 2 Jianling original bodies were very powerful. They had even surpassed the heavenly Tao. However, they couldn't recover. Otherwise, even a Nirvana realm warrior would be trash in front of the 2 Jianling, let alone a supreme god. Longao, after this period of recovery, my sister and I can defeat anyone below the Nirvana realm. Hearing Xiling's words, Longao was overjoyed. He didn't expect Xiling and Bai Ling to recover so quickly. They could defeat anyone below the Nirvana realm. However, Longao was curious. Since the 2 Jianling could defeat anyone below the Nirvana realm, why did they have to do this? As if reading his mind, Xiling said, Longao, although my sister and I are strong enough to kill a supreme god, we are still in the 9 serenities space. If we attack with all our strength, the sword chi source will be damaged. The consequences will be unimaginable. Longao didn't understand and asked, What do you mean? The meaning is very simple. The 9 nether space is a very special space. Here, we can't fight against the Supreme Divine Tao warriors head-on. You can only consume the opponent's strength so that we can deal with him in the shortest time possible. I see. Longao basically understood Xiling's words. Since that was the case, Longao didn't say much. However, he was more or less surprised. As long as they could defeat the 10 elders, the remaining 9 Netherbird clan leader thought of his own way. In the god-slaying sword. Sister, with our recovered strength, it's more than enough to deal with a supreme god. Why do we have to do this? Let Brother Long exhaust their strength. Bai Ling couldn't figure it out. However, Xiling glared at her and said, Longao has just broken through to the empty god realm. Although he is talented, you should know better than me that there are many people who are more talented than him. Moreover, the stronger Longao is, the better it will be for him. Sister, what do you mean? It's simple. I want to borrow the strength of the 10 elders to train Longao. In this way, his cultivation speed will increase rapidly. If we attack directly, it won't be good for Longao. Sister, if you really want his best, you have to listen to me and don't attack casually. P.S. I caught a bad cold and felt dizzy the whole day. I didn't want to write today, but thinking that there are so many brothers waiting for me to update, I can only grit my teeth and write. This is the first chapter. I'll grit my teeth and write 2 more chapters. Please forgive me. Please be careful and don't catch a cold. Chapter 12:22. At the peak of the desolate peak. You're the one who opened the 9 nether secret realm? Looking at the young man who had led him here, the 10th elder was pleasantly surprised. He had never thought that the person who had opened the 9 nether secret realm would appear in front of him. If he could open the 9 nether secret realm, wouldn't it be a great achievement? Taking a step back. As long as he could open the 9 nether secret realm and obtain the 9 nether inheritance, he could not only become the 9 nether clans' patriarch, but also dominate the Tianwu continent. 10th elder, the reason why I've led you here is simple. Longao sneered and said. To kill you. Kill me? With just you? Hearing his words, the 10th elder laughed crazily. His laughter was filled with disdain and contempt. His opponent was good at escaping, but his strength was not that great. The 10th elder could clearly sense that his opponent was only a 9th heaven demigod. There was no comparison between them. A demigod martial artist dared to say that he wanted to kill him here. What a joke, a big joke. Longao ignored the other party's disdain. 10th elder, why don't we make a bet? The 10th elder said with a smile. Let's hear it. You and I will defend ourselves and not attack. If you lose, you can kill yourself here. What if you lose? I'll give you the key to open the 9 nether secret realm. Haha, okay, I promise you, but I'll make the first move. The 10th elder was not a fool. In order to prevent his opponent from playing tricks, he did not hesitate to lose face. In the 10th elder's opinion, his opponent would definitely not agree. After all, the difference in their strength was too great. Even a divine god or a divine king would not dare to take his move head-on, let alone a demigod martial artist. But what was the result? Okay, since you have no confidence, I'll let you go first. After saying that, Longao stood still. The 10th elder was surprised. He did not expect that Longao would really agree. It was still that sentence, the 10th elder did not put Longao in his eyes at all. Without any warning, the 10th elder rushed out. The 10th elder did not use his full strength because he did not want to kill his opponent. He only wanted to injure him. The reason was simple. The 10th elder only wanted the key to open the 9 nether secret realm, not his opponent's life. The 10th elder's expression completely changed when he saw the palm strike. He felt as if he had struck a ball of cotton. His opponent's defense was a little too terrifying. Seeing that his palm had missed, the 10th elder retreated. His face was extremely gloomy and unsightly. Is it my turn now? Longao had a funny feeling. He had the defense of the 5 elements slaves. Not to mention a puny little divine king martial artist, even a nirvana martial artist would be nothing. The defensive power of the 5 elements slave was obvious. Longao would not tell the truth. Even if the 10th elder was a little curious, after all, the bet was there. Even if he was shameless, he would not be so shameless so openly. Therefore, when the 10th elder put on a posture, the meaning was very clear. In the 10th elder's opinion, it did not matter if his opponent could block his palm. A demigod was still a demigod. If he could not even block a demigod's palm, he could just kill himself. Come on! Longao did not hesitate at all. He also took a big stride forward. His speed was very fast. Before the 10th elder could react, Longao's body was already in front of him. The 10th elder did not expect his opponent to be so fast. However, the 10th elder did not care. As the saying goes, underestimating the enemy will kill. The 10th elder would never have thought that Longao would use sword chi instead of palm force. If it was an ordinary person, even if the 10th elder stood still, it would be difficult for him to hurt a demigod. However, Longao's situation was completely different. The terrifying sword force was integrated into the palm force. When the palm touched the 10th elder's body, it did not have the slightest bit of strength. The 10th elder's face was full of disdain and contempt. In just a few seconds, a continuous stream of terrifying sword chi had already passed over. Counterattack. Without waiting for the 10th elder to have time to counterattack, Longao used spatial teleportation and his body had already disappeared without a trace. The 10th elder was a typical person with two faces. On the surface he looked sloppy, but in fact, he had already used all his strength to block this move. Therefore, it seemed impossible for Longao to kill the other party with one palm. However, the 10th elder would never have thought that Longao was just a cover. The real killing move was the two Jianling, Bai Ling and Xiling. The two Jianling appeared, one on the left and one on the right. The terrifying sword chi was like thunder and lightning. It did not give the 10th elder any chance to react. Plop! The 10th elder's body fell heavily to the ground. Until the moment of his death, the 10th elder did not understand why he had lost. He thought that with his own strength, he could get the key to the 9th Nether Secret Realm, enter the 9th Nether Secret Realm and inherit the 9th Nether Inheritance. At that time, he would be the only one in the world. But the result? Greed and carelessness killed him. Looking at the corpse on the ground, Longao heaved a long sigh of relief. He knew very well that it was impossible for him to do it alone. In the end, he still had to rely on the help of Xiling and Bai Ling. Anyway, the 10th elder was dead. He had avenged 1/10 of Long Ming's death. Brother Long, don't be discouraged. It's just that your realm is too low. If you can break through to the divine realm, I believe that with this palm, you can easily kill him. Longao nodded. How could he not know what Bai Ling was talking about? Even if he was very anxious in his heart, Longao was also very clear that on the path of cultivation, he could not be too hasty. His cultivation speed was already very fast. If he pulled up the seedlings to help them grow, there would be no benefits, only disadvantages. The 10th elder is dead. Next, I will defeat the remaining 9 people one by one. I must be fast. I can't give the others a chance to react. Longao knew that he had relied on Xiling and Bai Ling to kill the 10th elder. This matter could not be known to the rest of the 9th Netherbird clan. Otherwise, it would be extremely difficult for him to defeat them one by one. Such a rare opportunity, of course, Longao would not choose to give up so easily. However, Longao did not go directly to the so-called 9th elder. Instead, he brought the 10th elder's body and soul into the dragon seal space. Soul slave? Corpse slave? Should he refine the 10th elder into a soul slave or a corpse slave? After all, the soul slave was powerful but could not leave the dragon seal space. The corpse slave was slightly weaker than the soul slave but could completely leave the dragon seal space. Longao knew that if it weren't for his relationship with Bai Ling, the two Jianling wouldn't have taken out the remnant of the sword Dao technique. Thank you? Brother Long, you're being too polite. In fact, Longao was thanking Xiling. Putting aside his relationship with Bai Ling, why would Xiling help him for no reason? After all, Xiling was doing it for Bai Ling's sake. Xiling and Bai Ling knew, but they didn't point it out. In the following time, Xiling and Bai Ling tried their best to impart the remnant of the sword Dao technique to Longao. Longao didn't dare to be careless and devoted himself to practicing the remnant of the sword Dao technique. Such a supreme sword Dao technique would bring great benefits to his sword Dao technique cultivation. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Longao certainly wouldn't choose to give up and miss it. In the god-killing sword, Xiling had a strange look in her eyes. Sister, there's something I want to ask. What is it? Xiling was very curious. He didn't know what his sister wanted to ask. Sister, do you also like Brother Long? hearing his sister's question, Xiling was shocked and a little flustered. He glared fiercely and said angrily, "Don't talk nonsense! How could I like that bastard? Sister, you have to be careful too. There's no good man in the world. Be careful that he doesn't lie to you. No, Brother Long is definitely not that kind of person. Sister, what I mean is, if you like Brother Long and are too embarrassed to say it, I can help you. Just mind your own business. You don't have to worry about my business. P.S. All 3 chapters have been delivered. Thank you, Brother Silverwings, for your reward and understanding. Little 9 should go to bed now. Hope tomorrow will be better." Chapter 12:24. The Sword Principle Remnant. Even with Longao's talent and comprehension, it took him a few hours to fully comprehend it. He would not have known if he had not practiced it, but he was shocked when he did. Longao had already guessed that the Sword Principle Remnant was powerful, but he did not expect it to be so powerful. Just as Xiling had said, the Sword Principle Remnant was only an incomplete sword art. Longao roughly comprehended it, and found that the Sword Principle Remnant was a full fifth shorter. It was obvious that an incomplete sword technique could create 2 Jianling, which showed the power of the Sword Principle Remnant. "Brother Long, my sister and I have only comprehended 1/5 of the Sword Principle Remnant." Longao nodded. Longao had become numb, but he was still quite shocked. It was hard to imagine that 2 Jianling could comprehend 1/5 of the Sword Principle Remnant. If they could comprehend 4/5 of the Sword Principle Remnant, it would be terrifying even if it was an incomplete one. "Bai Ling, you and I will cultivate the Sword Principle Remnant at the same time in the future. If there is anything we do not understand, we will comprehend it together." Bai Ling was more than happy to do so. With Bai Ling's character, she would not fall in love easily. Once she fell in love, it would be a love that would last until death. Unknowingly, 6 days had passed. Long Fu lived up to everyone's expectations and successfully refined a corpse slave within a short 6 days. The 10th elder was no longer the 10th elder of the 9 Netherbird clan, but a corpse slave that obeyed Longao's orders. It could be said that he was a walking corpse or a killing tool. Since the corpse slave had been successfully refined, Longao did not continue to hesitate. It was the same method as before, to break them one by one. The 9 Netherbird clan did not attract much attention after not seeing the 10th elder for 6 days. After all, under normal circumstances, the 10 elders would not gather together unless there was something important. The reason was simple. Everyone was busy cultivating. Not only the 10 elders, but even the patriarch of the 9 Netherworld clan, the 9 Netherworld Old Ancestor, was busy cultivating. Longao came to the mountain where the 9th elder was. He did not attack immediately, but looked for an opportunity. In the following days, with the help of Ziling and Bai Ling, as well as the sudden appearance of the corpse demon, Longao had already taken care of the 7 elders in the short span of a month, and all of them had been refined into corpse demons. As the saying went, there was no impenetrable wall in the world. Although Longao did it discreetly, the 9 Netherbird clan leader, found out. The Netherworld Patriarch did not appear. The first elder, second elder, and third elder looked at the young man in front of them. A puny nihility god martial artist was actually able to kill 7 elders. If he did not see it with his own eyes, he would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. "Sir, who are you? The 9 Netherbird clan has no enmity with you, so why did you kill our clan's elder?" The expressions of the 3 elders were extremely ugly. Since the establishment of the 9 Netherbird clan, such a thing had never happened before. Someone had dared to provoke the 9 Netherbird clan, and it was a mere empty god. 9 Netherbird, it was just 4 simple words. Longao did not say much nonsense. Hearing the words 9 Netherbird clan leader, the 9 Netherbird clan leader, the 9 Netherbird clan leader, turned pale and stared at the young man. The 9 Netherbird clan leader were not fools. They knew who the young man was. The 9 Netherworld clan had been looking for Huang Xiaolong for a total of 40 days since the opening of the 9 Netherworld secret realm. Initially, they thought that Huang Xiaolong had already left. However, the 3 of them had never thought that Huang Xiaolong would return to the 9 Netherworld clan. Young man, I don't care who you are, and I don't care what grudges you have with the 9 Netherbird clan. As long as you hand over the key to the 9 Netherbird clan leader, we will let you go. How about that? In front of the 9th Serenity secret realm, all the grudges and the 7 patriarchs were rubbish. Do you think I will hand it over to you? The 9 Netherbird clan leaders' words darkened their faces. First Elder. He waved his hand. Stopping the 9 Netherbird clan leader, the First Elder sneered and said, Young man, I know you have some tricks up your sleeve. However, I can tell you clearly that this is the 9 Netherbird clan leader's territory. Anyone who dares to provoke the 9 Netherbird clan will die. A threat. It was a blatant threat. Longao ignored the threat. Cut the crap. Do you still remember the 9 Netherworld Earthly Tiger clan? It was fine if Longao did not mention the 9 Abyss Earthly Tiger clan. After he finished speaking, the 3 of them did not continue to talk nonsense. After all, the 3 of them knew very well what the 9 Abyss Earthly Tiger clan meant. So it's the 9 Netherworld Earthly Tiger clan. In the 9 Netherworld realm, everyone knew the 9 Netherbird clan was responsible for the annihilation of the 9 Netherworld Earthly Tiger clan. Since the young man mentioned the 9 Netherworld Earthly Tiger clan, everything was clear. In that case, there was no point in saying more. Seeing that the young man did not speak, the 9 Netherbird clan leader did not continue to talk nonsense and stared at him. In the next second, the 3 elders moved at the same time. 1 Emperor God and 2 Ultimate Gods. The first elder was a peak Emperor God. As for the second and third elders, they were considered experts among the Ultimate Gods. One could imagine how powerful the 3 of them were when they joined forces. Longao dared not be careless. He was well aware of the gap between him and his opponents. Not to mention 1 against 3, he had no chance of winning even if he fought alone. As for Bai Ling and Xiling, Longao was also unwilling to use their powers. It was better to be safe than sorry. If the 2's sword aura origin were to be damaged, even he would not be able to forgive himself. 7 corpse slaves appeared at the same time. They were supposed to be 9 Netherbird clan elders and should be standing with the 3 of them. However, as soon as the 7 of them appeared, they started to attack the 3 elders. What was going on? The first elder, second elder, and third elder were shocked when they saw the 7 of them attacking them. They did not know what was going on and why the 7 of them would attack them out of nowhere. The 3 of them were a little dumbfounded. While defending themselves, the 3 of them could not figure out why the 7 of them would suddenly appear. Could it be that they were resurrected? Even if that was the case, the 7 of them should be helping them instead of attacking them. What was going on? Although the 7 of them were not as strong as the 3 of them, their strength would increase tremendously after being refined into corpse slaves. With the 7 of them joining forces and their immortal bodies, it would not be easy to deal with them. Corpse slaves were not immortal. Unless there was a great disparity in strength, it was impossible for the 3 of them to completely destroy the 7 of them. The 10 elders of the 9 Netherbird clan were fighting against each other, while Longao was watching the show from the side. If the 9 Netherworld Old Ancestor were to see such a situation, he would probably be so angry that he would go mad. Even if the news of his own people fighting against his own people spread out, no one would believe it. The battle between the 10 elders could be said to be earth-shattering. P.S. I wanted to go for an 4 drip in the morning, but I was afraid that everyone would start scolding me if I was late. I could only get up early to write and go for an 4 drip in the afternoon. Everyone, please take care of your health. Chapter 12:25. Are the 7 of you crazy? Why aren't you stopping? Being attacked by the 7 of them, the 3 of them were forced to retreat. Under such circumstances, they had no choice but to kill the 7 of them. Until then, the 3 of them did not know that the 7 elders had turned into corpse slaves and were no longer the 7 of them. That was the case. The 3 of them were not willing to kill them until the last moment. But the result? The 3 of them held back at every turn, while the 7 of them kept attacking wave after wave, causing the 3 of them to almost be killed a few times. Great Elder, if this continues, we will be at a disadvantage. He nodded. As an Emperor God martial artist, the Great Elder could tell that something was wrong. Kill. With the word kill, the Great Elder, Second Elder, and Third Elder did not hold back and attacked with all their might. Under normal circumstances, the 7 of them were no match for the 3 of them. After all, among the 10 elders, only the Great Elder's cultivation had broken through to the Emperor God realm. It was more than enough for him to fight against 10 of them. However, the 3 of them were shocked to find that no matter how strong their attacks were, the 7 of them were not afraid of death. Not only that, the defense of the 7 of them seemed to have increased countless times. Even if they were to take the attacks head-on, there was no problem. What was going on? Instinct told the 3 of them that the young man opposite them must have done something. In addition to the fact that he had left without a sound, the 3 of them began to put away their contempt and slowly became vigilant. Not far away, Longao stared at the great battle. Although the 7 corpse slaves were fighting against the 3 elders, Longao still didn't dare to be careless. After all, the strength of the 3 elders was there for all to see. Especially the Great Elder, who was an Emperor God warrior. Moreover, Longao was also looking for an opportunity. As long as the opportunity came, he would attack without hesitation. Young man, you are too arrogant. Hearing the sudden voice, Longao was shocked. In an instant, Longao had already guessed who the newcomer was. Without a doubt. The man in black who suddenly appeared was the 9 Netherworld Old Ancestor, the only Nirvana Realm martial artist in the entire 9 Netherworld clan. Who are you? Looking at the young man in front of him, the 9 Netherworld Old Ancestor did not attack immediately. The reason was simple. The Netherworld Patriarch was very wary of the young man in front of him. To be able to turn 7 people into such a state, it was terrifying just thinking about it. Moreover, he had to figure out the young man's identity. The 9 Nether Secret Realm, the 9 Nether Earth Tiger Clan. Longao didn't say anything else. Things had already come to this point. Longao knew that this battle was unavoidable. In any case, this debt would be settled sooner or later. It was better to settle it sooner rather than later. Hearing this, the Netherworld Patriarch's expression changed to one of shock. Everything was clear now. The 9th Nether Patriarch was not a fool. He was almost certain that the other party was the mysterious person who had opened the 9th Nether Secret Realm. Moreover, the other party had mentioned the 9th Nether Earthly Tiger Clan. The 9th Nether Patriarch was certain that the other party was from the 9th Nether Earthly Tiger Clan. If that was the case, it would explain why the other party was able to open the 9th Underworld Mystery Realm. Instead of getting angry, he laughed. The 9 Nether Patriarch laughed. If he could really open the 9 Nether Secret Realm, not to mention losing 7 elders, even if the remaining 3 elders were all killed, it would be a drop in the ocean. All of a sudden, the Netherworld Patriarch laughed maniacally. His laughter caused the 2 sides who were in the middle of a great battle to come to a stop. Longao sneered and didn't say a word. The 9 Nether Patriarch was pleasantly surprised because he had never thought that the target he had been searching for would appear at this time and place. It was like a sheep entering the tiger's mouth. Others might not know what the 9 Nether Secret Realm meant, but how could he not know? The 9 Nether Patriarch knew that as long as he could enter the 9 Nether Secret Realm and obtain the 9 Nether Inheritance, he could become a super expert in the world. Not to mention the 9 Nether Space, he could even meddle in the outside world. That was exactly the case. The 9 Nether Patriarch had finally found his target. How could he not be happy? Fool! The 9 Nether Patriarch wasn't angry at all. He looked at the 3 elders behind him and said, The 3 of you don't have to be surprised. The 7 of them have been refined into corpse slaves by him. So that's how it is. The 3 of them were surprised. The other party was able to refine 7 elders into corpse slaves. They knew how powerful the other party's divine ability was. After all, the 7 of them were supreme divine path martial artists, while the other party was just a little supreme divine path martial artist. You actually know about corpse slaves. Not simple. May I know how to address you? Longao. Longao, there is no enmity between you and me. As for the 7 of you being refined into corpse slaves, I can let bygones be bygones. The 3 elders were shocked when they heard the patriarch's words. They didn't know what the patriarch meant. After all, the other party had refined the 7 of them into corpse slaves, which was a provocation to the 9 Nether clan. If this matter were to spread out, the 9 Nether clan would lose face. However, the patriarch had already said it. Even if the 3 of them didn't want to hide it, they could only keep it to themselves. Longao smiled. He wasn't a fool. He knew very well that the other party was really so kind. If he wasn't wrong, the 9 Nether Patriarch must be thinking about the 9 Nether Secret Realm. Old Fox. Just as expected. Longao, as long as you hand over the key to open the 9 Nether Secret Realm, I will let you go. Moreover, the enmity between us will be written off. How about it? In the eyes of the 9 Nether Patriarch, nothing could be compared to the key to open the 9 Nether Secret Realm. For the key, he could sacrifice everything. Not to mention the 10 elders, even the entire 9 Nether clan would not hesitate. No. Without giving the other party any chance to speak, Longao continued. 9 Nether Patriarch, you want the key to open the 9 Nether Secret Realm and obtain the 9 Nether inheritance. In that case, why do you have to be so hypocritical? You're just a piece of trash. Without giving the 9 Nether Patriarch a chance to speak, Longao continued. 9 Nether Patriarch, you scheme to destroy the 9 Nether Earthly Tiger clan. Today, we will settle this grudge. Longao, do you know how to write the word death? Before the 3rd elder could finish speaking, the 9 Nether Patriarch had already given him a tight slap. This slap left the 3 elders completely dumbfounded, especially the 3rd elder. He held his right cheek, not knowing what had happened at all. As an elder of the 9 Nether clan, his status was there. Even the Patriarch couldn't slap him so easily. All of you, shut up. If anyone dares to say another word, don't blame me for being ruthless. The 9 Nether Patriarch only cared about the key. As for the 3 elders, everything else was fleeting. P.S. I'm much better now. I'll grit my teeth and write another chapter later. If I get better tomorrow, I'll explode immediately. Everyone, please forgive me. Chapter 12:26. Seeing that their clan leader was truly enraged, the 3 elders looked at each other and trembled with fear. They did not dare to continue talking nonsense. In fact, the 3 of them knew very well why their clan leader was like this. It was all because of the key to open the 9th secluded secret realm. They cursed in their hearts. Longao, state your conditions. As long as you hand over the key, I can agree to any condition. Really? Seeing the other party nod, Longao smiled. With an evil smile on his face, Longao suddenly said, 9 Nether Old Ancestor, I can give you the key to open the 9 Nether Secret Realm, but the condition is very simple. As long as you take off your head and give it to me, how about it? Hearing this, the 3 elders were shocked. Longao was completely challenging their clan leader's bottom line. He was courting death. However, the old ancestor Jiu was not angry at all. He smiled as if he had a card up his sleeve. Longao, I'll give you one last chance. Hand over the key. Otherwise, I'll make you wish you were dead. There was no key to the 9th secluded secret realm. The real key was Long Ming's blood. Longao did not mention this, and the old ancestor Jiu did not know. Longao did not continue talking nonsense. With a command, the 7 corpse slaves behind him all rushed out. Although the old ancestor Jiu did not speak, the 3 elders also rushed out. In the blink of an eye, the 2 sides were engaged in a fierce battle. As corpse slaves, the 7 of them could be said to be immortal. Unless a Nirvana realm martial artist personally attacked, it would be difficult for the 3 of them to completely destroy the 7 of them. However, the old ancestor Jiu did not attack at this time. The old ancestor Jiu and Longao stared at each other. They did not care about the battle at all, as if it had nothing to do with them. Longao, who are you? Seeing that the other party did not speak, the old ancestor Jiu continued. Since things have come to this point, you don't have to hide your identity. What do you think? Ha! He smiled. Longao's body was filled with killing intent as he said, 9 Nether Old Ancestor, I'm here for my brother, the 9 Nether Earthly Tiger Clan. Nodding his head, the Netherworld Patriarch did not continue asking because he already knew the other party's background. It was common knowledge. The annihilation of the 9 Nether Earthly Tiger Clan was caused by the 9 Netherbird Clan. It was only natural that they would seek revenge. Stubborn. The Netherworld Patriarch already knew the other party's identity and background, but he didn't say anything. He knew that there was only one way to get the key to the Netherworld Mystery Realm, and that was to use force. But what was the result? Before the Netherworld Patriarch could make a move, Longao suddenly disappeared. That's right, he disappeared into thin air. This move again. Previously, Patriarch 9 Nether had already seen Longao's sudden disappearance. Although he was mentally prepared, he still couldn't help but be shocked when he saw it for himself. Even now, the Netherworld Patriarch still didn't know how the other party had done it. Spatial artifact. After thinking about it, the Netherworld Patriarch could only think of one possibility, which was that the other party must have a spatial artifact. The Netherworld Patriarch had already sensed the other party's strength. The other party was just an insignificant empty god martial artist. Even a Nirvana martial artist couldn't disappear into thin air under his nose, let alone an empty god martial artist. In that case, there was only one explanation, which was that the other party must have a spatial artifact. Spatial divine tool. Among the divine tools, 1 in 10,000 was an absolutely terrifying existence. Ordinary martial artists wanting to possess a spatial divine tool was as difficult as ascending to heaven. It would be a lie to say that the other party wasn't tempted by such a temptation. Even the Netherworld Patriarch was a little tempted. Longao, didn't you want to seek revenge from me? Ha ha ha, I thought you had a lot of courage and strength. Turns out you're just a coward. Sad. Provocation. The Netherworld Patriarch was depressed because even with his strength, he couldn't find the other party's trace. He could only use provocation to provoke the other party. However, in the end, Longao still didn't appear. The Netherworld Patriarch turned around and looked coldly at the battle not far away. At this point, it didn't matter if he lost 7 people, as long as he could get the key to open the 9th Nether Secret Realm. Just as the Netherworld Patriarch was about to take action, a sword she shot over. Humph! The Netherworld Patriarch snorted and threw out a palm. As a Nirvana martial artist, the chi of heaven and earth was enough to suppress all auras, not to mention the sword aura. However, was the sword chi that Longao had thrown out so simple? Chi of heaven and earth? The Netherworld Patriarch was shocked. He had to admit that his reaction was strong. When he noticed that something was wrong, the chi of heaven and earth clashed with the sword aura. Moreover, the palm force had already dissipated the sword chi and disappeared without a trace. He was very clear in his heart that this sword was definitely unleashed by Longao. That's right. The 9 Nether Old Ancestor really couldn't figure out how Longao did it. Because the heaven and earth chi was the unique chi of Nirvana realm martial artists, ordinary martial artists couldn't possibly possess it. There were simply too many secrets and divine abilities on Lin Fan, so many that it was a little dazzling. However, the Netherworld Patriarch was pleasantly surprised because the more secrets Lin Fan had, the happier he was. Next, The battle between the two sides escalated continuously. As for the Netherworld Old Ancestor, it didn't matter if he didn't move. As long as he moved, even if there were signs of him moving, the sword she would shoot at him from all directions. Over time, the Netherworld Old Ancestor started to get irritated. Although the sword she couldn't hurt him, if this continued, when would it end? Left with no choice, the Netherworld Patriarch clenched his teeth and shot towards the battle with his fastest speed. He even used his hand to digest the sword she. Just when the 9th Nether Old Ancestor was about to make a move to deal with the corpse slaves, the 7 corpse slaves that were still there just now suddenly disappeared, causing the 9th Nether Old Ancestor to hit empty air. He seemed to have already gotten used to it. After all, the sudden disappearance of the corpse slaves was definitely related to Longao. Patriarch. The Netherworld Patriarch waved his hand and stopped the 3 of them. He said solemnly, "The opponent has a spatial divine tool. You have to be careful. From now on, the 3 of you shouldn't leave each other's side. Do you understand?" There were already 3 elders left. Unless it was a last resort, the Netherworld Patriarch wouldn't want to lose the 3 of them unless he obtained the key to open the Netherworld's secret realm. The 3 of them nodded. They knew that the opponent was strange. Even if there was a huge difference in strength, the opponent had a spatial divine tool that could make up for the difference in strength. Chapter 12:27. In the Dragon Seal Space. Longao was well aware of his own strength and the other party's strength. The difference in strength was too great. Because of this, Longao did not act rashly unless he had full confidence. As for the 5 element slaves, so what if they could fight against the Netherworld Patriarch? In the end, the 5 elements Patriarch could only defend and could not attack. This was his biggest fatal weakness. Blindly defending would only waste time. As for the remaining Xiling and Bailing, with the current situation of the 2 Jianling, even if the Netherworld Patriarch consumed his strength, it was impossible to kill him. Longao was not willing to let the 2 Jianling suffer any losses. "Master, with your current strength, even if you use all your strength and trump cards, it is impossible to kill him." Nodding. Regarding the meaning of what Longfu said, how could Longao not know? This time entering the Netherworld space, with the strength of Xiling and Bailing, it was almost certain that he could kill the 10 elders. Longao was full of confidence. He did not believe that the remaining 1st elder, 2nd elder, and 3rd elder would stay by the Netherworld Patriarch's side. As long as the 3 of them left, he would not hesitate to kill the 3 of them. The remaining Netherworld Patriarch was not easy to deal with. If he did not kill the Netherworld Patriarch, Long Ming would not be avenged. "Long Fu, what should I do?" "Master, if we were outside, it would be impossible for you to kill him. However, there is a chance here." Hearing this, Longao was overjoyed. As long as he could kill the Netherworld Patriarch, no matter how dangerous it was, he was willing to try. "Long Fu, what is it?" Longao could not wait. "Master, this method is actually very simple. Doesn't he want to enter the Netherworld's secret realm? Then you can beat him at his own game and lure him into the Netherworld's secret realm, then use the Netherworld's secret realm to kill him. Can I?" Longao already knew what Long Fu meant. But even if he could lure them into the 9th Serenity Mystery Realm, so what? "Master, you can't, but the little guy can." He nodded. Longao didn't take action immediately. Instead, he discussed it with Long Ming first. After getting Long Ming's approval, Longao was prepared to carry out this method. The 9 Nether Old Ancestor, who was about to leave, suddenly had a change in expression. He stared at the young man in front of him and said with a smile, "Longao, I can't help but admire you. You don't know what death is. 9 Nether Old Ancestor, didn't you want to enter the 9 Nether Secret Realm? So what if I do?" From the Netherworld Patriarch's point of view, it was impossible for the other party to hand over the key, but what was the result? 9 Nether Old Ancestor, I'll give you a chance. As long as you kill the 3 people behind you, I'll bring you into the Nine Nether Mystery Realm. Hearing this, the faces of the three elders became extremely gloomy, as ugly as they could be. However, the three of them were not worried at all. Although the clan leader wanted to enter the ninth secluded mystery realm, it would be ridiculous to kill them for something that he did not even know if he could enter. Do you think I'll believe you? I, Longao, can make a blood oath. Following that, Longao did not hesitate in the slightest and really swore a blood oath. Seeing this situation, the three elders became even gloomier. If Longao's words were without proof, even if the Nine Nether Old Ancestor was beaten to death, he would never believe this. However, for something like a blood oath, not to mention a mere nihility god martial artist, even a nirvana martial artist would not dare to casually make a blood oath. If it were any other matter, the Nine Nether Old Ancestor would not kill the three of them. However, the temptation of the Nine Nether Mystery Realm was too great. It was irresistible. The Nine Nether Old Ancestor was not worried at all. No matter what tricks the other party played, as long as he could enter the Nine Nether Mystery Realm smoothly, everything would be much easier. The most important thing now was to enter the Nine Nether Mystery Realm as soon as possible. Looking at the three people who turned around and looked at them coldly, the three elders were completely terrified. The three of them knew that with Longao making a blood oath, the clan leader might really kill the three of them in order to enter the Nine Nether Mystery Realm. With the clan leader's strength, if that was really the case, would they have the strength to resist? Clan leader, you won't really kill us, right? The three of them continuously retreated, trembling with fear. Endless anger filled their hearts. They really couldn't understand. Could it be that this was their patriarch? For so many years, the three of them had been at his beck and call and had given their all. However, in exchange, they did not know whether they would live or die. The Nine Nether Mystery Realm is extremely important to the Nine Nether tribe. If sacrificing you guys can exchange for entering the Nine Nether Mystery Realm, everything will be worth it. However, it doesn't matter. You guys are sacrificing for the Nine Nether tribe. You should feel honored. Honored my ass. Hearing the clan leader's words, the three of them cursed in their hearts. However, they did not dare to say anything. As the elders of the Nine Nether tribe, as the saying went, if the emperor wants his subordinates to die, the subordinates must die. The Nine Nether Old Ancestor did not hesitate. Things had already come to this point. As long as they could enter the Nine Nether Mystery Realm, it was worth sacrificing the three of them. The result was imaginable. With the Nine Nether Old Ancestors' strength, killing the three of them was just a matter of minutes. Looking at the situation, Longao shook his head in disdain. Scum like them should die early and reincarnate early. However, Longao did not have the slightest pity. The three of them deserved to die. With the help of spatial teleportation, his body disappeared from the spot. In the next second, he appeared in front of the three of them and kept their souls and bodies into the dragon seal space. Now that all 10 elders had been kept, once he refined the remaining 3, he would have 10 supreme divine Tao corpse slaves. Even if he left the dragon seal space, he believed that it would be of great help to him and the sect. He did not have the slightest concern. The 3 of them were already dead. Even if the Nine Nether Old Ancestor had already guessed that Yishiwen wanted to refine corpse slaves, he was not moved at all. Instead, he said, I have already killed the 3 of you. Can we enter the Nine Nether Mystery Realm now? Nodding his head, Longao hooked his finger and turned to leave. The Nine Nether Old Ancestor sneered. He had already decided that no matter what happened after entering the Nine Nether Mystery Realm, he would kill Yishiwen first. The Nine Nether Old Ancestor followed Longao all the way. In a short while, the two of them arrived at the back of the Nine Nether Peak. Longao, let's begin. The Nine Nether Old Ancestor was very eager to see how Yishiwen opened the Nine Nether Mystery Realm. However, would Longao tell the Nine Nether Old Ancestor? Long Ming did not appear, but his bloodline had already been transmitted to Longao's body. Moreover, it had already been activated, forcibly opening the spatial gate. Longao smiled and said, "Follow me." After saying that, Longao's figure disappeared into the spatial gate. The 9 nether-old ancestor did not hesitate and rushed in after him. P.S. Today is Monday. Little 9 will grit his teeth and write another chapter. I hope everyone will vote for Little 9. Many thanks. Little 9 will go to sleep first. Chapter 1228. Sky Martial Continent. Dragon Clan? As one of the strongest races of spirit beasts, there was no need to talk about the strength of the Dragon Clan. The entire Sky Martial Continent knew that the Dragon Clan and the Long family were one. The combination of the two was powerful, and not only was it one of the top 10, it was also the overlord of the Sky Martial Continent. At this moment, the heavenly Tao stood in the sky, looking down at the Dragon Clan, sneering. The divine mathematician has already left. Today, I want to see who can save you. The heavenly Tao thought for a moment, then continued to mutter to himself. Long Tian, primordial divine dragon, I will freeze the Dragon Clan today. I hope you will not disappoint me. As one of the peak experts of the martial Tao, there was no need to talk about the strength of the heavenly Tao. In the Sky Martial Continent, there were a total of 3 people whose cultivation had broken through to the peak of the martial Tao. The divine mathematician, the heavenly Tao, and Long Batian. Other than the heavenly Tao and the divine mathematician, no one knew that Long Batian was at the peak of the martial Tao. Even Longao did not know. In terms of strength, the divine mathematician was definitely first, the heavenly Tao was second, and Long Batian was third. When the divine mathematician was here, the heavenly Tao did not dare to act, but now, taking advantage of the divine mathematician's absence, the heavenly Tao was prepared to strike first. Before the heavenly Tao could make a move, "Heavenly Tao, you dare!" With a furious roar, Long Batian's body appeared in the sky, staring coldly at the heavenly Tao. "Heavenly Tao, you actually dare to destroy the continent's structure. Do you really want to be enemies with us?" He snorted coldly. The heavenly Tao was afraid of the divine mathematician, but not Long Batian. From the beginning to the end, the heavenly Tao did not put Long Batian in its eyes. Otherwise, if Long Batian was still here, the heavenly Tao would not have made a move. "Heavenly Tao, you want to stop me with just you? In that case, don't blame me for being heartless." Things had already reached this point. Long Batian was very clear in his heart that this battle could not be avoided. Since that was the case, there was no need to say any more nonsense. The battle between the peak experts of the martial Tao was not as earth-shattering as one had imagined. The two's divine souls came out and fiercely fought. Back and forth. The origin chi of the origin instantly covered the entire Dragon Clan. Whether it was Long Batian or Heavenly Tao, either of them dared to be the other. Within the Dragon Clan, sensing this terrifying aura, all the dragons stood there trembling in fear. The divine dragon of the 9 heavens' expression also changed abruptly. He seemed to have guessed something. He raised his head and looked at the void of the 9 heavens. He did not know why the heavenly path would suddenly act. At this moment, the entire Dragon Clan, from top to bottom, stood coldly in place. None of them dared to move. All the dragons had an intuition that as long as they dared to move, they would be killed by this terrifying aura without the slightest bit of leeway. Outside the Dragon Clan, the Dragon Clan's patriarch, Long Ditian, the Dragon Clan's great elder, Long Hang, and all the other elders were gathered outside the Dragon Clan. At this time, whether it was Long Ditian or Long Hang, they had already abandoned their previous grudges and were united against the outside world. The two of them knew that if something happened to the dragon race, their Long family would also suffer. At that time, let alone continuing to be one of the 10 great forces, whether or not they could even exist in the Tianwu continent would be an unknown. "Patriarch, what happened?" Among the members of the Long family, Long Ditian was the strongest. He was also the clan leader of the dragon race. Everyone looked at Long Bitian, wanting to know what had happened. Long Bitian's expression was very ugly. According to my guess, if nothing unexpected happens, the person who enveloped the dragon clan is the Heavenly Tao. Heavenly Tao? Hearing the patriarch's words, everyone was stunned. Ordinary people might not know what the Heavenly Tao was, but how could the people of the dragon clan not know what the Heavenly Tao was? The Heavenly Tao was the supreme expert of the Tianwu continent. Even if the 10 great forces joined forces, they might not be a match for the Heavenly Tao. This was the strength of the Heavenly Tao. Patriarch, now that the dragon clan is in trouble, should we go in and help? Long family and the dragon clan had a common enemy. No matter what difficulties they faced, they would face them together. It could be said that they would enjoy blessings and endure hardships together. Under normal circumstances, when the dragon clan was in trouble, the Long family would not sit idly by. But now, Long Bitian waved his hand and said in an extremely serious voice, "Don't be impatient. Let's take a look at the situation first." In the void of the 9 heavens, the peak battle. The Heavenly Tao and Long Batian released their origin chi, constantly colliding with each other, causing sparks to fly in all directions. Long Batian was not as strong as the Heavenly Tao. In just 30 moves he was defeated. Sneering, the Heavenly Tao said disdainfully, "Long Batian, you're not my match. You'd best scram, or I'll destroy you today." Long Batian glared at the Heavenly Tao in front of him. Even if he was extremely unwilling, the truth was in front of him. If he didn't leave, the Heavenly Tao really would do such a thing. As the saying went, a wise man knew when to retreat. Long Batian coldly said, "The mountains will not change, and the rivers will continue to flow." Heavenly Tao, when the godly mathematician returns, I want to see how you explain this to him. Long Batian forcibly tore through space and vanished without a trace. Godly mathematician? Humph. The Heavenly Tao seemed to be extremely confident. He coldly looked down at the dragon clan. In the end, he still attacked. A terrifying aura erupted from his body, instantly enveloping the dragon clan. If it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't be able to freeze the dragon clan. Even if it was a Nirvana pinnacle martial artist, it was the same. However, the Heavenly Tao was a peak martial artist. This time, the Heavenly Tao used his origin chi and a super divine weapon to freeze the dragon clan. It was more than enough. In the next second, a shocking scene appeared. Even Long Batian and the others who were outside the dragon clan were completely dumbfounded. They had never seen such a terrifying strength before. To be able to freeze the entire dragon clan, was this for real? After the Heavenly Tao's aura enveloped the dragon clan, the entire dragon clan was covered in a layer of white light. From now on, unless the godly mathematician and Long Batian personally came, no one could enter the dragon clan. Even Long Batian couldn't break the seal. This was the strength of the Heavenly Tao. The Heavenly Tao has sealed the dragon clan. This is going to be troublesome. Before Long Batian could think of a solution to see what to do, a figure suddenly appeared in front of everyone. It was the Heavenly Tao, a martial artist at the peak martial artist realm. Looking at the Heavenly Tao in front of them, everyone was a little dumbfounded, including Long Batian and Long Hang. It would be a lie if they said that they weren't worried. After all, the Heavenly Tao's identity and strength were right there. Moreover, no one knew why the Heavenly Tao suddenly appeared. Could it be that he wanted to deal with them? Chapter 1229. Everyone looked at the Tian Dao in front of them, and no one dared to speak. Long family. After saying the words Long family, the Tian Dao closed his mouth and sneered at Long Di Tian and the others. For a moment, both sides remained silent. Let the Long family off today. I'll look for you later. Just as he finished speaking, the Tian Dao's figure had already disappeared without a trace. Looking at the Tian Dao who had already left, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Not to mention the Tian Dao's strength, just the aura released by the Tian Dao was too terrifying. Patriarch, what should we do now? Everyone was trembling with fear. Although the Tian Dao had temporarily stopped, everyone knew that the Tian Dao would not let this matter rest. Once the Tian Dao made a move, the entire Long family would be destroyed. Go back. Long Di Tian did not say anything. Now that the Dragon Clan had been sealed by the Tian Dao, no one knew what had happened. A few hours later, the news of the Dragon Clan being sealed spread throughout the entire Sky Martial continent as if it had grown wings. Everyone who received the news turned pale with fright. Ordinary people did not know who had sealed the Dragon Clan, but the supreme experts of the Sky Martial continent were very clear. That was exactly the case. No one knew why the Heavenly Dao would suddenly seal the dragon race out of the blue. Everyone knew that the Long family and the Dragon Clan were one. Since the Tian Dao had already sealed the Dragon Clan, why not seal the Long family? The next day, the 10 Great Forces Master, Long Family, Dan Alliance, Martial Artists Alliance, Wanshou Sect, Heaven and Earth Sect, 5 Elements Sect, Wanzhan School, Sword Sect, Purple Thunder Sect, and Mysterious Sky Sect were all gathered together. The 10 of them were very clear that since the Dragon Clan had been sealed, they might be the next ones to be sealed. Who knew what the Tian Dao was thinking? 9 of you, what do you think? Long Di Tian's expression was solemn. The Dragon Clan being sealed had the greatest impact on the Long family. No matter how worried Long Di Tian was, he knew that it would be very difficult for him to fight against the Heavenly Dao with just a Long family. How could the 9 of them not know what Long Di Tian was thinking? However, the threat of the Heavenly Dao was still there. If they did not work together now, they would not even have a chance in the future. The leader of the Martial Artists Alliance, Tong Tiandi, said helplessly, "As long as none of us can break through the final bottleneck, then we won't be able to fight against the Heavenly Dao." That's right. The strength of the Heavenly Dao is right there. Going against the Heavenly Dao is just courting death. The Heavenly Dao was an unparalleled existence. In the entire Martial Heaven continent, there was only one person who could suppress the Heavenly Daos. That was the God Diviner. As for Long Batian, very few people knew about him. The 10 of them immediately thought of Master Clairvoyant. The 10 people looked at each other and saw a trace of helplessness and tragedy in each other's eyes. If there's really no other way, why don't we go find Master God Diviner? Master God Diviner has been advocating that the power structure of the continent remain unchanged for so many years. But now that the Heavenly Dao has sealed the Dragon Tribe, it's clear that it wants to change the power structure of the continent. Will Master God Diviner intervene in this matter? Who knows? But we have to try. If the Heavenly Dao really wants to change the power structure of the continent, we'll be in big trouble. The 10 of them were not fools. They knew very well that once the Heavenly Dao really made a move, even if the 10 tripods joined forces, they wouldn't be able to resist the Heavenly Dao. In the end, the 10 of them had no choice but to go to the Crystal Palace in the Outer Sea to find Master God Diviner. The 10 of them knew very well that in this world, only Master God Diviner could stop the Heavenly Dao. The sealing of the Dragon Tribe was like an endless whirlwind that swept through the entire Martial Heaven continent. The sealing of the Dragon Tribe shook the entire Martial Heaven continent. Longao, who was far away in the 9 nether space, had no idea about the sealing of the Dragon Tribe. In the 9 nether secret realm, in the empty 9 nether hall, there was only a water jar placed in the center, bubbling like boiling water. As soon as he stepped into the 9 nether secret realm, the 9 nether old ancestors shot toward Longao. His terrifying killing intent instantly enveloped Longao's body. Longao had already guessed it, so he wasn't surprised at all. With a backhand sword, he slashed. Longao found that he couldn't use the Dragon Seal space or teleport in the 9 nether secret realm, unless he entered a huge forest. Longao knew his own limits. Of course, he didn't dare to face a Nirvana realm expert head-on. He quickly turned and left, disappearing without a trace. "I'll deal with you later." The Nine Nether Old Ancestor didn't continue to chase because he had already entered the Nine Nether secret realm. The most important thing now was to find the Nine Nether inheritance. As for Longao, since he had already entered, Longao was already a turtle in a jar. Looking at the surrounding palaces, the Nine Nether Old Ancestor didn't immediately take action. He looked at the huge water jar in front of him. The tumbling bubbles looked very strange and mysterious. In front of the corridor, Longao could almost guess that the Nine Nether Old Ancestor couldn't obtain the Nine Nether inheritance because Long Ming had already obtained it. As everyone knew, every inheritance could only be imparted to one person. Therefore, Longao wasn't too surprised. "Brother Long, how are you going to deal with the Nine Nether Old Ancestor?" Bai Ling's voice was filled with worry. "Long Fu, how can I use the Nine Nether secret realm to deal with the Nine Nether Old Ancestor?" After entering, Longao didn't know what to do. After all, the Nine Nether Old Ancestor's strength was obvious. Even if he joined forces with Xiling, Bai Ling, and Long Fu, they still couldn't kill the Nine Nether Old Ancestor. "Master, the method is actually very simple. The water jar that Long Ming entered is the Nine Nether inheritance. Long Ming can enter without any problem and can even receive the inheritance. But if others enter the water jar..." Long Fu didn't finish his words, but the meaning in his words was very clear. Nodding, Long Ao already understood what Long Fu meant. If this method was used on others, it was unknown whether it would work, but it would definitely work on the Nine Nether Old Ancestor. The reason was simple. The Nine Nether Old Ancestor dreamed of obtaining the Nine Nether inheritance. Not to mention the water jar, even if it was a mountain of swords and a sea of flames, the Nine Nether Old Ancestor would not hesitate to pounce on it. In this way, killing the Nine Nether Old Ancestor would become extremely simple. The purpose of entering the Nine Nether secret realm this time was to kill the Nine Nether Old Ancestor. Because of this, Longao didn't plan to let the Nine Nether Old Ancestor go. No matter what happened, he had to deal with him. As soon as he thought of it, Longao did not hesitate at all. He immediately walked through the long corridor and re-entered the palace. The Nine Nether Old Ancestor, who was looking for the Nine Nether inheritance, suddenly smiled when he saw Longao return. "P.S. After 2 days of infusion, I feel much better. After a good night's sleep, I believe I'll be fine tomorrow. Little Nine will try to explode tomorrow. I've been slow these 2 days, please forgive me." Chapter 1230. The Ninth Nether Patriarch looked at him with disdain. He could not figure out if Lin Fan was out of his mind. He had finally left, but he had returned to seek his own death. A puny little void god martial artist was just a trash-like existence in his eyes. The Ninth Nether Patriarch was confident that he could kill Lin Fan easily with a flick of his finger. This was the power of the Nirvana realm. "Longao, I really admire your courage. Ninth Nether Patriarch, do you want to know about the inheritance of Ninth Nether?" The Ninth Nether Patriarch, who was about to attack, stopped immediately when he heard the word inheritance. He was pleasantly surprised. He had sacrificed 10 elders to enter the Ninth Nether secret realm in order to obtain the inheritance of Ninth Nether. "Longao, do you know about it?" Longao looked at him coldly and pointed at the huge water tank in front of him. He did not say anything, but his meaning was clear. He did not doubt Lin Fan at all. Since he had stepped into the Ninth Nether secret realm, his target was the water tank. After hearing Longao's words, the Ninth Nether Patriarch was almost certain that the water tank in front of him was the inheritance of Ninth Nether. Until now, the Ninth Nether Patriarch still could not figure out why Longao would help him for no reason. He knew that the Ninth Nether Patriarch wanted to kill him. As if he could guess what the Ninth Nether Patriarch was thinking, Longao sneered and said, "Don't be curious. I only helped you for one reason." "What is it?" It's simple. Even if you get the inheritance, you can't kill me. So I'm not worried at all. Don't ask me why. I won't answer you. After speaking, Longao turned and left. In a short while, he had disappeared without a trace. The ninth Nether Patriarch did not chase after him. The ninth Nether Patriarch did not believe Longao's words at all. Although he was more or less suspicious, he still said the same thing. He did not take Lin Fan seriously. He stared at the huge water tank in front of him. This was the inheritance of ninth Nether. Since things had come to this, the ninth Nether Patriarch did not hesitate any longer. He took a step forward and entered the water tank. As soon as the ninth Nether Patriarch disappeared into the water tank, Longao suddenly appeared with Long Ming beside him. Big brother. There's no need to be so polite between brothers. Longao and Long Ming knew very well that it would be difficult for the Netherworld Patriarch to leave the water vat alive even if he had the ability to pierce through heaven and earth. Until now. Longao finally let out a long sigh of relief. Longao was not a fool. He knew very well that the reason he was able to kill the 9 Nether Old Ancestor and the 10 Elders was mostly due to luck. More importantly, it was the 9 Nether Mystery Realm. Without the 9 Serenity's secret realm, would he have been able to kill the 9 Serenity's old ancestor? Not to mention the Netherworld Patriarch, even the First Elder, and the others might not be able to kill him. Long Ming, now that you've avenged yourself and obtained the inheritance of the 9 underworlds, there's no need for us to stay any longer. He nodded. Long Ming was not surprised at all. Although he had taken his revenge, his family and his parents were no longer around. After the two of them left the 9th secluded secret realm, 3 minutes later, the huge water tank in the 9 Serenity's secret realm suddenly started bubbling. One after another, countless bubbles filled the entire 9 Serenity's secret realm. The 9 Nether Old Ancestor's angry voice came from the huge water tank. His anger rolled out like thunder. Longao, no matter where you go, I'll tear you to pieces. Longao did not know anything about the 9 Serenity's secret realm. In Longao's opinion, since Long Ming had avenged himself and obtained the inheritance of the 9 Serenities, there was no point in continuing to stay in the 9 Serenity's secret realm. Not to mention, there were still many things waiting for him outside. Apart from the Dragon Sect, the Massacre Abyss was more important. If he continued to stay, wouldn't it be a waste of time? The 9 Netherbird clan had 1 Nirvana Realm martial artist and 10 Supreme Divine Path martial artists. With such strength, they could be considered as one of the top forces even outside. Even if they were not as powerful as the 10 forces, they could definitely be ranked in the top 5 among the second-rate forces. Long Ming used his bloodline to forcefully open the passage, just as he returned to the Dragon Sect. In the lobby. Is what you said true? 7th brother, that's right. The dragon race has been sealed by the heavenly Das. As for the Long family, they're safe. Hearing his big brother's words, it was impossible for Longao to say that he was not shocked. Even he didn't know why the heavenly Das would do this. Why would they seal the dragon race? Did the godly mathematician not care about this? Longao's intuition told him that something must have happened for the heavenly Das to suddenly seal the dragon race. However, there was one thing that Longao couldn't figure out. Since the heavenly Das had sealed the dragon race, why didn't they seal the Long family at the same time? After all, everyone knew that the dragon race and the Long family had a common enemy. There was no reason for the heavenly Das to not do this. Longao learned about the matter of the heavenly Das sealing the dragon race. There were many different opinions on the Martial Heaven continent. All kinds of rumors were spreading. Longao wasn't the slightest bit happy about the dragon race being sealed. Instead, he was very grave. That was because Long Chang had already obtained the divine dragon pearl. As long as he refined it, his strength would increase and he would become the leader of the dragon race. But now, once the dragon race was sealed, it wouldn't benefit him in the slightest. Just what did the heavenly Das want? Seventh brother, what should we do now? How could Longao not know what his big brother meant? Now that the dragon race was sealed, the martial heaven continent would definitely be in chaos. If the sect chose to attack at this time, it would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. However, Longao shook his head. Now isn't the time. Big brother, I know what you mean. However, we don't want to become a second-rate power. My meaning is very simple. Either we don't do it, or we do it. We have to become the strongest. Perhaps the sealing of the dragon race is an opportunity for us. If anyone else had said this, Longing and Dugubai would have snorted disdainfully. However, the person who said this was Longao, their little brother. In the end, Longing chose to believe this godlike little brother of hers. Big brother Dugu, it's still the same. Don't make a move. During this time, I'll go see what's going on. No problem. Longao didn't immediately go to the slaughter abyss. In his opinion, the sealing of the dragon race wasn't a bad thing for him. After all, Long Chan had already obtained the divine dragon pearl and could refine it at any time. At that time, subduing the dragon race wouldn't be easy. That was exactly the case. Longao was preparing to use the sealing of the dragon race to see if he could subdue the dragon race. If he succeeded, not only would it benefit Long Chan, but it would also benefit his sect. He would be able to rise to the top of the 10 directions. Chapter 1231. Outside the Dragon Race. Everyone knew that the dragon race had been sealed by the heavenly Das. If it had been any other matter, it would have attracted countless people to watch. But now, other than the Long family's divine Tao protectors, there was no one else outside the dragon race. Everyone feared the heavenly Das, and they knew the consequences of provoking them. The fact that the dragon race had been sealed meant that the heavenly Das wanted to deal with the dragon race. Who would be so blind as to provoke the number one expert of the martial heaven continent? Unless they were suicidal or had water in their heads. Longao's cultivation base had smoothly broken through to the void god realm. Even deities would find it difficult to find him. Just like that, Longao smoothly arrived outside the dragon race. Origin energy barrier. Just by sensing it, Longao knew that the heavenly Daos had used the origin energy to seal the dragon race. If that was the case, then in the entire martial heaven continent, unless the God Diviner personally came, no one would be able to break the origin energy barrier. Thinking about it, Longao still couldn't figure out why the God Diviner hadn't appeared since the heavenly Daos had sealed the dragon race. Could it be that the God Diviner had agreed with the heavenly Daos? Shrugging helplessly, Longao was very clear that with his strength, there was no way he could enter the dragon race. Just as Longao was about to leave, a voice rang out. Master, I have a way to let you enter the dragon race. Hearing Long Fu's voice, Longao was delighted. He impatiently asked, Long Fu, what method do you have to let me enter the dragon race? Longao had already thought about it. This time, the dragon race had been sealed by the heavenly Das. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If he could enter, he might be able to deal with the entire dragon race. Master, if the heavenly Daos were here, we wouldn't be able to do anything. But if it's just the origin energy barrier, as long as the two Jianling and I work together, entering the dragon race won't be difficult. Nodding, Longao understood what Long Fu meant. Not to mention Long Fu's strength, Xiling and Bai Ling's original strength had already reached the peak of martial arts. Even if the two Jianling were no longer as strong as before, their original aura still existed. Xiling and Bai Ling appeared at the same time. Big brother Long, although we can send you into the dragon clan, once the heavenly Tao finds out, you will be in a lot of trouble. How could Longao not know what Bai Ling meant? If that was the case, it would be troublesome. What should he do? At this moment Xiling, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, I have an idea. Bai Ling and Longao both looked at Xiling. They wondered how Xiling would be able to sneak into the dragon clan. Half an hour later. With the help of Xiling, Bai Ling, and Long Fu, Longao successfully entered the dragon clan. As expected. Ever since the dragon race had been sealed, the people outside had been guessing whether or not the giant dragons in the dragon race had been killed by the heavenly Tao. Now, it seemed that the heavenly Tao had only sealed the dragon race and not slaughtered them. Seeing this situation, Longao more or less heaved a sigh of relief. "Master, is that you?" Looking at the fire dragon that suddenly appeared in front of him, Longao smiled and nodded. "Yes, fire dragon. What exactly happened to the dragon clan?" The fire dragon was also a divine beast. Since the first time he entered the dragon clan, the fire dragon had always thought that he was the successor of the primordial divine dragon, so it treated him as its master. If the fire dragon knew the truth, what would it think? "Master, for some reason, the heavenly Tao suddenly took action and sealed the dragon clan. Now the dragon clan is in complete chaos. All the members of the clan have gone to the dragon shrine. We hope that the chief can give us an explanation. Before being sealed, no divine dragon was able to leave?" There weren't many of them in the entire dragon sect. Among the spirit beast races in the Tianwu continent, the dragon clan, the phoenix clan, and the Qilin clan were considered the strongest existences, but their numbers were the smallest. Longao had calculated that all the members of the dragon clan added up to about 10,000. It was said that 10,000 giant dragons were a lot, but compared to the other spirit beast races, this number was simply a drop in the bucket. Not to mention, in the entire dragon clan, there were less than 1,000 giant dragons that could break through the divine Tao realm. 95% of the divine dragons had all fallen. After entering the dragon tomb, excluding the divine dragons that could not be refined, just Longao alone had over 1,000 divine dragon corpse slaves. No one knew about this. If the Long family and the dragon clan knew about it, the consequences would be unimaginable. "Fire dragon, take me with you." "Master, this..." Longao was very clear about fire dragon's worries. However, the reason he had entered the dragon clan this time was to deal with the dragon clan. This opportunity could be said to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him. It was precisely because of this that Longao decided to take the risk and head to the Divine Dragon Palace. Longao was no fool. Once the Nine Firmaments Divine Dragon learned of his goal, he would either succeed or die trying. He clearly knew that the path ahead was filled with danger, but Longao was still prepared to take the risk. This was Longao's character. Fire Dragon seemed to be very obedient, especially when its master had returned. His cultivation base had already broken through to the divine Tao realm. If it hadn't seen this with its own eyes, it wouldn't have believed it. In this way, Longao followed Fire Dragon to the Dragon Clan. The strength of the three supreme races of the spiritual beasts, the Dragon Tribe, the Qilin Tribe, and the Phoenix Tribe, was almost the same. However, as the heavenly Tao slowly interfered, the members of the Dragon Tribe became fewer and fewer. Many divine dragons were slaughtered. Regarding this point, the 10 tripods, including the Dragon Tribe, were very clear. Otherwise, there would not be so many giant dragon skeletons in the Dragon Tomb. Over time, after so many years of development, the Phoenix Clan and the Qilin Clan had firmly suppressed the Dragon Clan. However, there was no enmity between the three supreme clans. Therefore, all these years, the three supreme clans had been living in harmony. Divine Dragon Palace was where the highest authority of the entire Dragon Clan was located. It was also the residence of the Dragon Clan's patriarch, the Dragon God. It could be said that the Divine Dragon Palace was the supreme existence of the Dragon Clan. However, at this moment, tens of thousands of divine dragons were standing quietly in front of the Divine Dragon Palace. Among the tens of thousands of divine dragons, there were thousands of divine dragons. Among the remaining divine dragons, there were old dragons and young dragons. Without exception, all the divine dragons gathered in front of the divine dragon palace. There was only one purpose, that was to ask the patriarch why the dragon clan was sealed. After all the divine dragons were very frightened. Until now, none of the divine dragons knew who sealed them. Apart from the patriarch and the elders, no one knew. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.